Hi guys, tonight we arrive at a place that smells of wet earth, wood smoke, and old ale before you even see its walls. You are standing on a rutted road just as the light drains out of the sky. Boots aching, shoulders stiff, breath fogging faintly in the cooling air. Ahead of you, a low building crouches beside the road, its windows glowing like tired eyes. This is the medieval inn. And whether you planned it or not, this is where you are sleeping tonight. You probably imagine inns as cozy little refuges, warm fires, soft beds, maybe a friendly face pouring you a drink. You will get some of that. Yes, but you will also get noise, smells you cannot escape, and a level of intimacy with strangers that modern life has carefully trained you to avoid. You probably will not survive this night with your personal space intact. Still, you are here, and the road behind you has already faded into darkness. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And, as always, tell me where you are listening from, and what time it is for you right now. Someone out there is hearing this in daylight. Someone else is already half asleep. Both of you are welcome here. Now, dim the lights, and take a slow breath as you step closer to the building. The inn sits slightly lower than the road. Deliberately so. Water runs away from it when it rains. That is not an accident. Medieval builders knew a thing or two about staying dry, even if comfort was a distant second priority. Historians generally agree that most roadside inns were built close to trade routes, not for beauty, but for survival. Travelers meant money. Money meant food on the table. You pause outside for a moment. From within, you hear a low roar. Laughter rises and falls. Something wooden thumps against something harder. A voice sings, badly, and is immediately shouted down. There is life in there. Too much life, perhaps, for someone who only wants to sleep. The door is thick, scarred with old scratches and darkened by years of hands pushing it open. You brace yourself and step inside. Warmth hits you first, uneven and smoky. Then the smell, ale, sweat, damp cloaks, roasted meat that has been cooked too long and left to linger in the air. The floor beneath your feet is packed earth, maybe scattered with rushes if you are lucky. Those rushes are supposed to help with moisture and dirt, though historians still argue whether they actually helped or just trapped smells more efficiently. Your eyes adjust slowly. Firelight flickers across rough beams overhead. This place is bigger than it looked outside, but only because everything is shared. Benches line long tables, bodies pressed together without apology. No one looks up when you enter, at least not yet. You are not special. You are simply another tired shape adding heat to the room. This is your first lesson of the medieval inn. It is not built around privacy. It is built around movement. People come in. People go out. News flows faster than wine. Merchants trade rumors as eagerly as goods. Pilgrims mutter prayers into their cups. Locals watch everyone, quietly deciding whether you belong or whether you are trouble. You shift your pack on your shoulder. It feels heavier now that you have stopped moving. The road has been your companion all day, keeping you alert, upright, very. Here, your body begins to remember that it can rest. That memory is dangerous. Sleep will not come easily tonight, but exhaustion is already pulling you downward. A mainstream historical fact slips into your awareness without ceremony. In most parts of medieval Europe, inns were not standardized. There was no guarantee of quality, cleanliness, or even basic safety. Each inn was its own gamble. Some travelers chose specific routes based not on distance, but on which inns had the least lice. That knowledge spread by word of mouth, not by signboards. You glance around again. Somewhere near the fire, a man is sleeping already, head on the table, mouth open, utterly unbothered by the noise. That is impressive. Or alarming. You are not sure yet. A quirky detail catches your eye. Hanging near the hearth is a bundle of dried herbs, blackened by smoke. Some believed these helped purify the air. Others thought they warded off illness or bad spirits. Historians still argue whether innkeepers used them for genuine belief, customer comfort, or simple decoration. Either way, the herbs hang there, silent witnesses to countless nights like this one. You take another step inside, letting the door fall shut behind you. The sound of the road disappears instantly. That is the finality of it. You are committed now. No turning back unless you plan to sleep under the stars, which is colder, quieter, and significantly more dangerous. The fire pops. Sparks jump and vanish. Someone laughs again, louder this time, and the sound ripples across the room like a stone dropped into water. You feel it in your chest. This is not just a place to sleep. It is a living organism, breathing heat and noise and shared fatigue. You realize, faintly amused despite yourself, that you have entered a space where time behaves differently. Night here is not about silence and darkness. It is about compression. Too many lives, too close together, all trying to rest at once. You stand there, just inside the door. For a heartbeat longer, your body sways slightly. Tomorrow will come whether you sleep or not. For now, this inn is your entire world. And somewhere in this noisy, smoky room, your place for the night is waiting. You move deeper into the room, letting the door close fully behind you. And only then do you realize how sharply the sound has changed. Outside, the night was wide and open. In here, noise folds in on itself. Voices overlap. Laughter breaks mid-sentence. A cup scrapes across wood. Somewhere near the fire, fat drips and hisses. You are no longer an observer. You are part of the mass now. The light is worse than you expected, or maybe better, depending on your standards. It is warm. Yes, but it flickers constantly. Shadows crawl along the walls and ceiling, making the space feel alive in an unsettling way. Faces appear and disappear as people lean forward, then back again. No one stares for long. Prolonged attention would be rude, or worse, suspicious. Crossing the threshold of a medieval inn was more than stepping indoors. It was a social signal. Historians widely agree that once you entered, you were expected to participate, at least minimally. Sitting alone in silence marked you as either dangerous or unwell. Neither was desirable, so you keep moving, scanning for a place where you might blend rather than stand out. Your boots leave faint marks in the dirt floor. The ground is uneven, worn down by generations of feet. In some areas it feels almost polished. In others, soft and slightly damp. Medieval inns rarely had wooden floors in their main rooms. Wood was expensive, and dirt was easier to repair. Just smooth it over. Scatter fresh rushes if available, and pretend yesterday never happened. The smell grows stronger as you pass the tables. Ale is everywhere, not the crisp, clean scent you might imagine, but something sour and sweet at the same time. This is normal. Medieval ale spoiled quickly and was often consumed within days. It was safer than water in many towns, which is a mainstream historical fact people still find hard to accept. You wrinkle your nose, then relax it. Complaining would achieve nothing. Someone bumps your elbow. There is no apology. Only a quick glance and a nod. That is enough. Space is negotiated physically here, not verbally. You adjust your pack again and tuck it closer to your body. Theft was not guaranteed in inns, but it was always possible. Historians still argue whether inns were safer than sleeping outdoors or simply concentrated risk into a smaller space. Near one wall, you notice a long bench pushed beneath a narrow window. The glass is thick and uneven, likely imported at great cost. That tells you something about this place. It is not the poorest inn on the road. Someone invested in it. Someone believed travelers would pay for even a small improvement in comfort. A fringe detail floats into your mind. Some inns kept a bell near the door, rung whenever a new guest entered, both to alert the innkeeper and to discourage thieves by making arrivals public. This one has no bell. Either it was lost, or no one bothered. You suspect the latter. You finally spot the innkeeper. Or rather, you identify them by behavior. They are not the loudest or the most central, but the room subtly bends around them. A middle-aged figure stands near a small counter. Hands never still. Coins are taken. Cups are filled. Words are exchanged quickly, efficiently. Reputation matters here. An innkeeper who cheated too openly would not last long. Travelers talked. Locals remembered. You wait. That is another lesson. You wait your turn. Leaning against a beam darkened by years of smoke. The wood is warm to the touch. That warmth feels like kindness, even if it is accidental. Your shoulders drop slightly. Your breathing slows. While you wait, you listen. Stories drift past you in fragments. A broken axle repaired just in time. A river crossing gone wrong. A town up ahead with strange customs. Inns were information hubs. Some scholars argue they functioned as unofficial news networks, spreading political shifts and local dangers long before formal messengers arrived. A laugh erupts behind you, sharp and sudden. You flinch before you can stop yourself. No one notices, or they notice and do not care. That is comforting in its own way. At last, the innkeeper looks at you, not with suspicion, not with welcome, simply with assessment. You step forward, pack still on your shoulder, and meet their gaze. Crossing the threshold is complete now. Whatever the road demanded of you today, it has been replaced. Here, the rules are different. You will learn them quickly, because you must. Your night has truly begun. You find a place near one of the long tables. Not quite sitting yet, just hovering at the edge, like someone easing into cold water. The surface looks rough, but polished by use. Countless elbows have rubbed it smooth over the years. Your fingers rest there for a moment, feeling the grooves and nicks left behind by knives, cups, and impatient hands. This table has heard more secrets than most people ever will. The common room breathes around you. It is not a single sound, but a layered one. A low murmur forms the base, steady and constant. Above it rise sharper notes. Laughter bursts out and fades. Someone coughs, deep and wet. Wood shifts as benches scrape back. Every sound overlaps slightly, never fully resolving into quiet. You realize that silence here would feel wrong, almost alarming. You finally sit. The bench is harder than you hoped, but softer than the ground. That counts as comfort tonight. Your knees brush the person beside you, and neither of you move away. There is no room for embarrassment. Bodies fit where they can. You adjust your cloak, tucking it under you so it does not drag in whatever has soaked into the floor. The fabric smells faintly of the road, dust and sweat and old rain. It blends seamlessly with the air around you. A cup appears in front of you without ceremony. You are not sure who placed it there. The liquid inside is cloudy and dark, warm. This is ale, thick and filling, brewed close by and meant to be consumed quickly. People in this period drank it daily, often from childhood. Not for pleasure alone, but because it was safer than untreated water in many towns. You lift the cup and take a cautious sip. It tastes sour, then strangely comforting. Your stomach relaxes as if it recognizes the ritual. Around you, conversations tangle together. A merchant across the table gestures with 2 fingers, describing a road washed out by last week's rain. A woman beside him listens closely, lips pressed together, clearly calculating her own route. At the far end, someone recounts a near miss with bandits, voice dropping low at the most dramatic moments. Inns were places where information pooled naturally, not written down but carried forward in memory. Many travelers planned their journeys based on what they heard in rooms like this one. You notice how stories change as they travel across the table. Details sharpen or soften depending on the listener. Danger grows slightly more dangerous. Distances stretch. This is not deception exactly. It is survival. Attention is currency here, and a good story earns protection. Sympathy, maybe even a free refill. A small, strange detail draws your eye. Tied to a beam overhead is a worn horseshoe, blackened by smoke. Some believe it is for luck. Others say it marks the inn as honest. A quiet signal to travelers who know what to look for. There is no clear agreement, and written records are frustratingly vague. Still, the horseshoe hangs there, unbothered by debate, quietly observing the room. You shift again, trying to find a position that will not send a sharp ache through your hips later. Your body is tired in a deep way, the kind that settles into bone. The bench does not care, neither does the table. Furniture here is not designed for comfort but for endurance. It must survive spills, boots, weight, and time. So must you. The fire crackles louder for a moment, drawing your attention. Someone tosses on another piece of wood. Sparks leap up, then vanish into the dark rafters. The warmth spreads unevenly, blessing those closest to the hearth while leaving others to huddle deeper into their clothing. You are somewhere in between. Warm on one side, cool on the other. That imbalance keeps you awake. Food arrives next. Set down in the middle of the table. A thick stew, heavy with grains and whatever meat was available. No individual bowls, just spoons, dipping and withdrawing in turn. You hesitate for a heartbeat, then join in. Shared food is expected. Refusing it would be awkward at best, insulting at worst. You scoop carefully, avoiding the center where someone else's spoon has already stirred too often. The taste is simple and filling. Salt, fat, heat, enough to quiet hunger without delighting it. Meals like this were designed to sustain, not impress. Many travelers depended on inns for their largest meal of the day. Knowing the road offered little else. As you eat, warmth spreads through your chest, loosening muscles you did not realize were clenched. Someone across from you begins to sing. Not well, not terribly either, just loud enough to draw groans and a few half-hearted harmonies. The song is familiar to several people at the table, which surprises you. Tunes traveled easily in a world without printed music, carried by voices from inn to inn. A melody learned here might surface weeks later in a town far away. Changed, but recognizable. The room grows hazier as smoke thickens. Your eyes sting slightly. You blink and rub them, smearing a bit of grime across your knuckle. Chimneys existed, but they were imperfect, and smoke often lingered where it pleased. People accepted this as normal. Chronic coughing was common. Some medical writers of the time even blamed smoky interiors for a range of illnesses, though no clear solutions followed. You lean back for a moment, listening rather than watching. The soundscape shifts subtly as the evening deepens. Conversation slow. Laughter becomes heavier, less sharp. Cups are refilled less often. Fatigue settles in waves. This is the rhythm of the common room. Predictable and oddly soothing. There is still tension here, though you feel it beneath the surface. Too many strangers, too many unknown intentions. People keep one hand near their belongings. Eyes flick sideways more than forward. Trust exists, but it is cautious and temporary. Some modern historians suggest that violence in inns was less common than popular imagination claims, while others point to court records that tell a harsher story. The truth likely lives somewhere in between, shaped by location and circumstance. Your shoulders slump. The bench presses into your thighs. You are no longer fully present in the room, drifting slightly inward, Exhaustion blurs the edges of sound and light. You could sleep here, head on the table. If you let yourself, many do. But the night is not finished with you yet. For now, you sit among strangers, warmed by fire and food, surrounded by noise that somehow makes you feel less alone. This shared weariness binds you together more effectively than kindness ever could. Outside, the road waits. Inside, the common room hums, holding you in its rough embrace. Your eyes keep drifting back to the figure who seems to belong to the room more than anyone else. Not the loudest voice, not the strongest presence, yet everything bends subtly in their direction. When they move, space opens. When they speak, sound dips, just slightly. This is the person who runs the inn. You watch them the way tired people do, without staring, absorbing patterns instead of details. Their hands are always doing something, counting coins, wiping a cup that will never truly be clean, adjusting a pot near the fire. They rarely sit. Rest here is a luxury reserved for guests. And even then, only partially. Innkeepers in the medieval world occupied a strange social position. They were not quite merchants, not quite servants, not quite hosts. Records from town courts and travel accounts suggest they were judged less by politeness and more by consistency. Did the fire burn when promised? Did the food arrive? Did people wake up alive? That last one mattered more than it sounds. You notice how the innkeeper's eyes move. They do not linger on faces, but on hands, on posture, on how people enter and where they place their belongings. Experience has taught them where trouble begins. Not with shouting, usually, but with silence that lasts too long, or movements that do not match the rhythm of the room. Someone complains loudly about the ale, not its taste, but its price. The innkeeper listens without interrupting, head tilted slightly, expression unreadable. When they finally respond, it is brief and calm. The complainer grumbles, then drinks anyway. That small exchange tells you a lot. Authority here is not enforced with threats, but with reputation. An innkeeper known to lose control would lose business quickly. Word traveled faster than roads. There is an old belief that inns were lawless spaces, full of unchecked chaos. The reality appears more nuanced. In many towns, innkeepers were legally responsible for what happened under their roof. Theft, fights, even suspicious deaths could bring fines or worse. This encouraged a careful balance between tolerance and control. Too strict, and travelers avoided the place. Too loose, and the authorities took notice. A curious custom catches your attention. Near the counter sits a shallow bowl filled with coins. Some old, some worn nearly smooth. These are not tips. At least not exactly. In some regions, guests were expected to leave small offerings to cover breakage or shared losses. If a cup shattered or a bench cracked, the cost was spread across many hands. It was an early form of shared risk, though no one would have described it that way. You wonder how long this innkeeper has stood in this spot. Years. Likely. Decades. Possibly. Running an inn was often a family trade, passed down through generations. Children grew up learning how to judge strangers by the sound of their footsteps. They learned which nights brought merchants, which brought soldiers, which brought drunks who needed watching. The innkeeper glances toward the door every so often, even though it has not opened again. Habit. They are always counting who is inside and who is not. In a world without formal guest lists, memory did the work. Losing track of someone could mean trouble later. You catch their eye briefly. Just a flicker of acknowledgement. Not a welcome. Exactly. But recognition. You exist. That is enough. A lesser-known detail drifts into your thoughts. Some innkeepers kept unofficial agreements with local guards or watchmen. In exchange for information or small favors, help would arrive quickly if things turned ugly. Whether this was widespread or rare remains unclear. Surviving records hint at it, but never spell it out fully. Still, you imagine it now. Threads of quiet cooperation holding the night together. The room shifts again as another group prepares to sleep. Benches scrape back. Cloaks are folded. Or more accurately, dropped. The innkeeper moves among them, directing with gestures rather than words. A hand points toward a corner. A nod indicates where someone should settle. This is choreography learned over time. You notice how disputes are handled. A sharp look, a raised hand, a pause long enough to cool tempers. Violence here would be bad for business. Everyone knows it, even those who pretend otherwise. The fire burns lower. Someone stirs it. The innkeeper allows it. Watching carefully. Fire is warmth and danger both. There are stories of inns lost overnight to careless sparks. Some chroniclers describe entire roads changed because a trusted inn vanished in smoke. People remembered those losses for generations. Your own tiredness deepens as you observe all this. Understanding the innkeeper helps you relax. Oddly enough, someone is watching. Someone cares. At least enough to keep things from unraveling completely. You think about how many nights like this have passed through this room. How many travelers sat where you sit now, wondering if they could trust the walls, the food, the people. The innkeeper remains, a fixed point in a shifting world. Later writers would disagree about whether innkeepers were generous figures or cynical opportunists. The truth likely depended on the night, the road, the weather, and the people involved. Tonight, this one keeps the fire alive, the noise contained, and the doors closed. That is enough. You settle back against the bench, eyes heavy, letting the room hold you a little longer. The innkeeper moves on, already managing the next small crisis you cannot see. Eventually, the moment arrives when watching is no longer enough. You need to claim your place for the night, whatever form that takes. You rise from the bench slowly, joints stiff, and make your way back toward the counter. The floor dips slightly beneath your feet, worn down by years of the same hesitant walk. Many people have stood where you stand now, weighing the same question. How much rest can I afford? The innkeeper looks up before you speak. You sense they have been aware of you for some time. Coins appear in your hand, warm from your palm. There is no fixed price written anywhere. Payment here is negotiated through custom, reputation, and circumstance. A full purse speaks for itself. A thin one invites compromise. You place the coins down one by one, letting the sound carry. It matters. Too quick, and you seem careless. Too slow, and you seem uncertain. The innkeeper counts without counting, fingers barely moving. Their response is a short nod. That nod contains an entire contract. In many medieval regions, payment at inns covered more than a place to sleep. It often included a meal, a place near the fire, and protection of sorts. Legal records from the period suggest that once payment was accepted, the innkeeper bore some responsibility for your safety and belongings. Not absolute responsibility, but enough to matter. This is why payment happens before sleep, not after. Once you lie down, you are under their roof in every sense. The innkeeper gestures toward the far side of the room. No words, just direction. You follow the motion and see what you are being offered. A space along the wall, slightly away from the main tables. No bed, no mattress, just a stretch of floor with scattered straw that looks marginally cleaner than the rest. This is not an insult. It is the standard option. You hesitate only a moment before accepting it. Refusing would mean renegotiating, and renegotiation risks annoyance. Annoyance risks memory. Memory matters here. A smaller coin slides across the counter. This one earns you a blanket, thick and rough, smelling of smoke and old wool. Blankets like this were valuable. Many travelers carried their own for this reason. Tonight, you will borrow one that has warmed many strangers before you. As you turn away, you notice another exchange happening beside you. A man presses down a larger stack of coins. The innkeeper responds differently this time, lifting a finger and pointing toward a narrow stair at the back, a private chamber, or as private as anything gets here. That option exists, but only for those who can afford it. Even then, privacy is relative. Walls are thin, locks are unreliable, silence is never guaranteed. There is a persistent myth that most medieval inns offered individual rooms as a standard. Surviving building plans and travel accounts suggest otherwise. Shared sleeping spaces were far more common, especially outside major towns. Separate rooms existed, but they were limited and expensive. Many travelers accepted communal sleeping as simply part of the journey. You carry your blanket to the indicated spot. The straw crunches softly beneath your weight as you test it with your foot. Dry. Mostly. That is good. Wet straw is a misery you do not want to imagine. Some inns refreshed their straw regularly. Others waited far too long. The smell tells you which kind this place is. You exhale. Relieved. This one has made an effort. A strange custom flickers into your thoughts. In certain regions, travelers were expected to shake out straw themselves before settling, partly to remove pests, partly as a gesture of self-reliance. Whether this was widely practiced or simply advised in manuals is unclear. Either way, you kick lightly at the straw now. Just in case, you lay your pack against the wall and sit down carefully. The floor is cold through your clothing. Stone or packed earth does not forgive. You spread the blanket over your legs and feel immediate relief as warmth gathers beneath it. Your body responds eagerly, already preparing to surrender. Nearby, others are doing the same. Someone mutters a prayer under their breath before lying down. Someone else sighs deeply, the sound long and unguarded. These small rituals repeat themselves night after night, unseen and unrecorded. The innkeeper passes once more, pausing to adjust a lamp. The light dims slightly. This is intentional. Too much light invites wakefulness. Too little invites trouble. Finding the balance is part of the job. You realize something quietly important. Payment here is not just about money. It is about belonging, however briefly. Once paid, you are no longer an outsider hovering near the door. You are a guest, temporary, replaceable, but acknowledged. There were travelers who tried to sleep without paying, slipping into corners unnoticed. Court cases suggest this was risky. If discovered, the consequences ranged from expulsion to public punishment. Inns relied on trust, but they defended it fiercely. Your eyes follow the movement of the man who paid for the private chamber. He climbs the stair slowly, hand on the wall. You wonder if his rest will truly be better than yours. Solitude can be its own discomfort. The room settles again. The negotiation phase of the night is ending. Everyone knows where they stand now, literally and figuratively. The fire burns low. Voices soften. You lie back fully for the first time, spine meeting the ground. It is not comfortable, but it is rest. The road has taught your body to accept this difference. Payment has been made. The bargain is complete. All that remains is to endure the night. The food comes late. After payment. After decisions have settled into place. This is deliberate. Hunger sharpens patience. A fed traveler is quieter, easier to manage, less likely to argue over space or warmth. You understand this instinctively as the smell drifts toward you, thick and grounding, cutting through smoke and sweat with surprising authority. A pot is lifted from the hearth and set near the table. Steam rises slowly, carrying the scent of grains and fat. No announcement follows. People simply notice. One by one, like animals sensing rain, you push yourself up, blanket sliding from your legs, and join the slow movement toward the food. There are no plates, just bowls that have seen better years and spoons worn thin at the edges. You take one without ceremony. The stew is ladled out generously, though not lavishly. The innkeeper controls portions with a practiced eye. Too much, and the pot empties early. Too little, and complaints begin. Balance is everything. Meals like this were the backbone of travel. Many inns provided only one hot dish per evening, designed to satisfy rather than impress. Written household accounts from the period suggest these stews relied heavily on whatever was cheapest and most available. Barley, peas, onions, scraps of meat. Flavor came from salt more than spice. You taste it now. Simple, heavy, comforting in its honesty. You sit back down with your bowl, steam warming your face. The first mouthful spreads heat through your chest. You had not realized how chilled you were until this moment. The food does more than fill your stomach. It signals safety, however temporary. Eating indoors, among others, marks a pause in vigilance. Around you, conversation resumes in softer tones. Eating slows speech. People listen more. A merchant explains a delay at a river crossing. Spoon pausing mid-air as he emphasizes a point. Someone else nods. Chewing thoughtfully. These exchanges matter. Knowledge shared over food tends to stick. A lesser-known habit surfaces here. In some inns, travelers were expected to bring their own utensils. This place provides them, but not all did. Forgetting a spoon could mean eating with bread or fingers, which was common enough not to shock anyone. Cleanliness was relative. What mattered was participation. You notice how carefully people guard their bowls, not out of greed, but out of instinct. Food is precious, even in a room full of it. No one assumes abundance will last. There is an unspoken rhythm to the eating. Take, pause, swallow, wait. This keeps the pot moving smoothly, without drawing attention. Someone nearby complains quietly about the meat being tough. Another person shrugs. Meat was often older or preserved in ways that modern tastes would reject. Still, it provided calories and warmth. For many, that was enough. There is a persistent question among modern researchers about whether inn food was generally worse than household fare. Some argue it was inferior, stretched thin for profit. Others suggest it was comparable to what most people ate daily. Judging by the lack of outrage around you, this stew meets expectations. As you eat, you feel the room change again. The sharp edges soften. Even the fire seems gentler now. Its crackling less demanding. You slow your pace deliberately, letting the warmth spread fully. Sleep creeps closer, encouraged by a full stomach and the steady hum of voices. A strange detail catches your attention. A child appears briefly near the hearth, carrying a small bowl. Too young to be a guest. Too comfortable to be out of place. Likely part of the innkeeper's family. Children in inns learned early how to navigate strangers. They absorbed languages, intoned, and stories without effort. Some grew into travelers themselves. Others stayed, inheriting the trade. The bowl in your hands empties sooner than you expect. You consider reaching for more, then decide against it. Taking too much risks notice. Moderation keeps you invisible, and invisibility is a form of safety. You return the bowl to a stack near the counter. No washing. That will come later. Or perhaps not at all. Water is safe for drinking, not dishes. Smoke and heat do what they can. Back at your spot, you pull the blanket around you again. Your body feels heavier now. Limbs sinking into the straw. The bench and floor feel less hostile. The ache in your legs dulls into something manageable. Around you, the final stages of eating play out. Spoons clink softly. Someone wipes their mouth with a sleeve. A prayer is murmured. Another person stretches, joints cracking audibly. The meal has done its work. This is the turning point of the night. After this, there will be no more arrivals of significance, no more negotiations. just endurance. Food in a medieval inn was not about pleasure. It was about survival and social glue. Sharing it bound strangers together for a few hours, reminding them they were human before returning them to the road. You lie back fully now, eyes half closed, listening to the fading clatter of bowls. The warmth in your stomach spreads outward, lulling your thoughts. Sleep is not here yet, but it is closer than it was. As the bowls disappear and hands retreat back into sleeves, you become more aware of the people around you, not as noise, but as presence. Faces glow briefly in firelight, then sink back into shadow. Everyone looks slightly softened now, rounded by food and fatigue. This is when conversations change. Less business, more confession. You shift your position again, easing pressure from one hip to the other. The straw rustles quietly. Someone nearby grunts in acknowledgement. Not annoyed, just aware. Space is negotiated through sound and movement rather than words. You learn quickly how to exist without demanding. A man across from you leans forward, elbows on knees, and begins to speak about a shrine he visited weeks ago. His voice is calm, steady, carrying the practiced rhythm of someone who has told this story before. Others listen without interruption. Pilgrims often traded stories as much as prayers, and inns were the places where routes intersected. What you hear here may shape your own path tomorrow. You notice the way people identify themselves, not by name at first, but by origin. A town, a region, a river. Identity travels with geography. Knowing where someone comes from tells you what they eat, how they speak, and sometimes what they fear. You file this away, instinctively mirroring the habit. A woman beside you speaks next, describing a market where prices doubled overnight after a poor harvest. Her voice carries a quiet anger, but also resignation. Such fluctuations were common, and news of them mattered deeply to anyone moving goods. Inns served as informal economic censors, long before numbers were written down. There is an odd intimacy in this exchange. None of you may meet again, yet stories spill freely. The shared knowledge that tomorrow scatters you makes tonight feel suspended, almost unreal. A curious practice emerges here. Some travelers deliberately exaggerate hardship, not for sympathy, but for validation. Hard journeys earn respect. Listening to them, you sense the unspoken competition. Who walked farther? Who slept colder? Who risked more? This is not vanity. It is survival signaling. If you endure, you belong. You contribute little, choosing instead to listen. This seems to please people. A quiet listener is rarely challenged. You nod at the right moments. You murmur agreement where it fits. This is enough. A small but telling detail draws your attention. A man reaches into his pouch and produces a scrap of parchment. Passing it around carefully, it holds a crude map, lines smudged by use. No one mocks it. Maps were rare and valuable, even imperfect ones. Each person studies it seriously, offering corrections from memory. In this way, knowledge improves communally. Some historians suggest that inns played a crucial role in spreading practical geography. Roads changed, bridges collapsed, rivers shifted. What you learned from a map alone was never enough. It was these conversations that kept travelers alive. The fire dips lower again. Someone stirs it, and the innkeeper glances over, then allows it. The signal is subtle. The night is advancing. Energy must be conserved. You feel the weight of the day settle fully now. Muscles soften, thoughts slow. Even the itchiness of the straw becomes background sensation rather than irritation. Your breathing lengthens without effort. The group around you thins as people begin to lie down. Conversations taper off mid-sentence. Unfinished and unimportant. A laugh trails away into a yawn. Someone crosses themselves before stretching out. Another curls around their pack protectively. There is still talk. but it becomes fragmented. Words drift past you without attaching meaning. This is the threshold between wakefulness and sleep, stretched longer by noise and shared air. A lesser-known belief surfaces here. Some travelers avoided sleeping too deeply in inns, fearing theft or danger. They trained themselves to rest lightly, waking at small disturbances. Whether this was common practice or simply advised in cautionary texts is uncertain. Still, you sense it in the room. Bodies relax, but not completely. Hands remain near belongings, eyes close, but ears stay alert. You test this yourself, letting your eyes shut while keeping your posture slightly tense. It feels unnatural at first, but exhaustion smooths it out. You drift without falling. Voices fade. The fire settles into a steady glow rather than flame. Smoke thins slightly as fewer logs are added. Somewhere above, perhaps in the loft or private chamber, footsteps cross slowly, then stop. You become aware of breathing around you. Dozens of rhythms, each slightly different. Some shallow, some deep and rattling. One nearby carries a faint whistle on each exhale. It would be annoying in silence. Here, it blends in. Your mind wanders briefly. You think about the road ahead, then let the thought dissolve. Tomorrow belongs to tomorrow. Tonight has claimed you fully, in this shared space, among strangers who feel oddly familiar now. You begin to understand something essential. Sleeping in a medieval inn was not about rest in the modern sense. It was about pause, a momentary suspension of movement, danger, and choice. You sink deeper into that pause. Sleep does not arrive all at once. It seeps in. Warmth settles unevenly through the room, and you begin to understand how closely heat is tied to status here. Those nearest the hearth have claimed their advantage early, arranging themselves with practiced efficiency. Others, like you, accept the compromise of partial warmth and partial chill. The fire does not reach everyone equally, and it never has. You pull the blanket tighter around your shoulders and feel the rough wool scrape gently against your neck. It smells of smoke and old nights. That smell is not unpleasant. It carries the quiet reassurance that this fabric has done its job before. Many times, heat in a medieval inn is never abstract. It is physical, contested, and constantly shifting. The fire itself is modest now, not roaring but steady. Large fires were dangerous. Sparks could leap. Beams overhead were dry. Entire inns had vanished because someone fed the flames too eagerly. Careful control mattered more than comfort. Accounts from the period describe innkeepers who woke hourly to check embers, long after guests slept. Whether that happened every night is unclear, but the fear behind it was real. You notice how people orient themselves in sleep, feet toward the fire, backs to the wall, faces turned inward. These positions are not random. They are learned over years of cold nights. Bodies arrange themselves to trap warmth, to shield faces from drafts, to avoid sudden contact with strangers shifting nearby. The heat comes in waves. When someone adds wood, warmth blooms briefly, then fades. Each addition feels like a small gift. You time your breathing to it without meaning to, inhaling more deeply when the air warms. A curious observation surfaces as you lie there. Despite the crowd, there is very little physical contact now. Earlier, knees and elbows brushed constantly. In sleep, space becomes sacred. People curl inward, shrinking themselves. Even those sharing beds maintain careful distance, touching only where necessary. It is a quiet choreography, respected without instruction. There is an old assumption that medieval people were less sensitive to cold than we are. Some sources support this idea, pointing to thicker clothing and higher tolerance. Others argue that people felt cold just as sharply, but lacked alternatives. Lying here, you suspect the latter. Your toes ache faintly. Your nose feels cool. Endurance is not comfort. It is adaptation. A faint draft slides across the floor, carrying the smell of damp earth. You tuck your feet further under the blanket. This building breathes. Gaps in walls and doors allow air to move freely. Complete insulation was rare. Fresh air reduced smoke, but it also invited cold. Every architectural choice carried trade-offs. Someone nearby shifts suddenly, blanket rustling loudly. You tense instinctively, heart beating faster for a moment, then settle as the movement stops. This happens again, and again. Each time, your body reacts less. You are learning the language of the night. In the corner, a dog lifts its head briefly, ears pricked, then curls back into sleep. Animals often shared in spaces, both as warmth and as security. Their presence was normal, even expected. You find the soft rhythm of its breathing strangely calming. The fire pops softly. A spark arcs upward and dies before reaching the beams. No one reacts. This sound has become part of the background, a marker of safety rather than threat. You drift closer to sleep now. Thoughts stretching and loosening. Images float up without context. The road behind you, faces at the table, the innkeeper's steady hands. They blur together, losing edges. Then a sharper awareness pulls you back. Cold. The fire has dipped lower again. Heat withdraws, leaving pockets of chill. This is the hardest part of the night. The stretch before dawn when fires are not renewed and bodies are too tired to compensate. You curl tighter, knees drawn up slightly. The straw beneath you compresses, offering less cushion than before. You adjust, seeking a better balance, then give up and accept it. Acceptance comes easier now. Some travelers slept fully clothed for this reason, layering garments rather than removing them. Others loosened only what they must, conserving warmth. You choose the middle path, easing tight straps but keeping most layers on. Sleep here is practical, not ceremonial. A subtle sound reaches you, distant but persistent. Wind outside, brushing against walls. The inn groans faintly in response. Wood shifting with temperature changes. These sounds might alarm you elsewhere. Here, they feel oddly protective, like the building reminding you it is still standing. There are stories of inns haunted by travelers who never left. Whether these tales reflect genuine belief or serve as cautionary entertainment is unclear. Lying here, surrounded by breath and warmth and faint creaks, you can imagine how such stories took hold. Darkness invites interpretation. Your breathing deepens again. The room fades slightly at the edges. You are not fully asleep, but you are no longer fully awake. This in-between space stretches longer than it would in silence. Noise anchors you, preventing the plunge. A hand reaches out nearby, groping briefly in the dark, then retreats. Someone checking their belongings, someone waking from a half-dream. It happens without drama. Nighttime vigilance is quiet. You think briefly about how many nights like this shaped people's lives. Sleep fragmented, shared, cautious, dreams interrupted, rest earned in pieces. Modern expectations of deep, uninterrupted sleep would have seemed foreign here. That thought drifts away, unfinished. Your body sinks further into the straw. The blanket warms fully now, trapping what little heat remains. Your jaw relaxes, your shoulders drop. The fire glows faintly, embers pulsing like slow breaths. The inn holds steady around you. At last, sleep stops circling. It settles. You wake without fully waking. Something shifts in the room, and your body responds before your mind understands why. A bench scrapes softly. Straw rustles. A low voice murmurs, then fades. This is how the night moves here. Not in clean breaks, but in gentle disturbances that ripple outward and then disappear. Your eyes remain closed. That feels safer. Darkness behind your lids is easier to manage than the flickering half-light of dying embers. You listen instead. Listening has become your primary sense. It tells you what matters and what does not. Footsteps cross the room slowly. Careful not to stumble over sleeping bodies. Someone is moving toward the door, or perhaps toward the corner where the privy bucket sits. Night needs do not stop just because rest is scarce. People rise and return with minimal fuss, trained to navigate darkness by memory and instinct. A soft cough breaks the quiet near your feet. Another answers it farther away. These sounds feel intimate now. Shared markers of vulnerability. No one complains. Illness is common. So is fatigue. Complaints waste energy. The smell of the room has changed slightly. The sharp edge of ale has dulled. Smoke lingers but no longer thickens. What remains is the warm, sour scent of many bodies at rest. It is not pleasant, but it is familiar. Familiarity breeds calm. You shift your weight a little, testing how deeply sleep has settled into you. Your limbs feel heavy, as if gravity has increased overnight. This is the strange gift of exhaustion. It anchors you, making movement feel optional rather than urgent. A sudden laugh slices through the air, sharp and brief. It startles you despite yourself. Somewhere, someone has dreamed something funny, or frightening, or absurd. The laugh fades quickly, replaced by embarrassed silence. Dreams spill into waking more easily in shared spaces. You sense, rather than see, that the fire has burned down to glowing coals. The room is cooler now. Cold creeps in slowly, touching exposed skin first. Your face feels it. Your hands. You tuck them closer to your body without opening your eyes. This stretch of the night is the longest. Before dawn, after distraction has faded, the body wants to sleep deeply, but the environment resists. You float instead, drifting in and out of shallow dreams. Images surface without warning. A road stretching endlessly forward. A table piled with bowls that never empty. Faces with blurred features. Speaking words you cannot quite hear. These are not narratives. They are fragments, shaped by the day you have lived. You hear a faint whisper nearby. Two voices, low and careful. Someone has woken and chosen this moment to speak quietly, perhaps believing most others are asleep. Secrets are often shared at this hour. You do not strain to listen. Whatever they say belongs to them. There is a moment of stillness so complete that you almost believe morning has arrived early. Then the building shifts, wood contracting in the cold. The sound travels through the beams and settles into the floor. The inn reminds you it is alive too. People in this time slept differently than you are used to. Accounts suggest that waking during the night was normal, even expected. Some prayed, some reflected, some simply waited until sleep returned. The idea of uninterrupted rest was rare. You are participating in a rhythm older than clocks. Your mind wanders briefly to safety. Are you safe here? The question arises without panic. You consider it honestly. There are risks. Yes, theft, illness, fire. But you are surrounded by others who share the same risks. That shared exposure creates a kind of quiet protection. Harm here would not go unnoticed. A lesser-known habit surfaces in your memory. Some travelers slept with a hand through the strap of their bag, so that movement would wake them. You try it now, fingers curling loosely around leather. The gesture comforts you more than it actually secures anything. You doze again. Time loses shape. Minutes stretch. Hours compress. Your breathing deepens, then lightens. Somewhere in the room, someone snores loudly. Pause, then resumes. The sound is rhythmic enough to blend into the background. Cold presses closer as the fire fades completely. This is the hour when blankets are tested. You pull yours higher, covering your mouth. Warm breath pools beneath the fabric. Moist and comforting, you breathe slowly to keep it there. A faint light begins to creep in around the edges of the shutters. almost imperceptible at first. You do not notice it consciously, but your body does. Hormones shift. Sleep loosens its hold slightly. Outside, something moves. A cart, perhaps, or an early traveler passing by. The sound is distant and muffled, but its signals change. The world beyond the inn has not stopped. Inside, people begin to stir in small ways. A stretch, a sigh, a whispered curse as someone rolls onto a sore hip. The night is preparing to release its grip. You open your eyes briefly, just enough to orient yourself. The room is dim, blue-grey now rather than orange. Shapes are softer, faces still. You close your eyes again. There is no need to rush. This half-light feels gentler than darkness. It promises resolution. Whatever discomfort the night held is nearly over. Your thoughts slow again, settling into a quiet acceptance. You have endured the hardest part. Cold. Noise. Interruption. You have rested enough to continue. Sleep thins but does not vanish. You hover in that fragile space where waking begins to outweigh dreaming. Morning is coming. Not yet. But soon. The first true signs of morning arrive without ceremony. There is no bell. No announcement. Just a subtle shift in the way the room holds itself. Breathing changes. Bodies stretch a little farther before settling again. You sense it before you see it. The night loosening its grip. A faint grey light seeps through the shutters, thin as smoke. It settles along the walls and floor, revealing shapes that were only guessed at before. The fire is now nothing more than dull embers. Their warmth long gone. Cold has reclaimed the space. Sharper, now that sleep has thinned. You lie still, listening. Morning sounds are different from night sounds. They are more deliberate. Someone clears their throat. Another person sits up slowly, joints cracking with quiet complaint. A boot scrapes against the floor, searching for its match. These noises carry purpose. The night tolerated rest. Morning demands movement. Your body resists at first. Muscles ache in unfamiliar places. The straw beneath you feels harder now, less forgiving. You shift carefully, testing what hurts and what does not. Your back protests, then settles. This is the price of rest taken wherever it can be found. Nearby, someone yawns widely and makes no attempt to hide it. A ripple follows. Yawns are contagious. Even here, even now, fatigue binds you together one last time before the day pulls you apart. The innkeeper is already awake. You notice this without seeing them at first. It is in the way the room is being managed. A shutter opens slightly. A bucket is moved. A low voice murmurs instructions to someone younger. The machinery of the day begins quietly, practiced and efficient. Morning in a medieval inn did not bring leisure. It brought urgency. Travelers wanted to leave early to make the most of daylight. The innkeeper wanted them gone in good order, before tempers frayed and debts were questioned. There was a rhythm to departure, shaped by long habit. You sit up slowly, blanket slipping from your shoulders. The cold hits immediately, sharp enough to make you hiss softly. You pull your cloak tighter around you. Sleeping in layers helped, but rising still hurts. You rub your hands together, breathing into them, trying to coax warmth back into stiff fingers. Light strengthens incrementally. Faces become clearer. You recognize a few from the night before. Others look different now, stripped of firelight and shadow. Everyone seems more ordinary in daylight, less mysterious, more human. A man near the door stands and stretches, arms raised, then bends to gather his things. He moves quickly, efficiently. This is not his first departure. He knows what matters. Pack, cloak, coin purse. Everything else can wait. You do the same, reaching for your belongings and checking them by touch rather than sight. Pack strap, pouch, knife, all present. Relief settles in your chest. Loss in the night would have lingered far longer than discomfort. There is a smell of bread now, faint but unmistakable. Someone has set a small loaf near the fire, warming it slightly. Morning food in inns was often minimal, if it existed at all. Many travelers brought their own. Still, the scent lifts your spirits. Even a little sustenance makes the road feel less hostile. You watch as people approach the counter one by one. Some offer a coin. Some offer a nod. Some say nothing at all. Payment was not always exact, especially for those who slept on the floor. The understanding was flexible, shaped by custom rather than strict accounting. There is an ongoing discussion among historians about whether morning meals were standard at inns or exceptional. Evidence varies by region and period. What seems clear is that expectations were modest. No one lingers in hope of comfort. Morning is about readiness, not pleasure. You take a small piece of bread when it is offered, accepting it with a quiet thanks. It is coarse, dense, and slightly stale. Perfect. It fills your mouth and steadies your stomach. You chew slowly, aware that this may be your last solid food for hours. Around you, conversations resume briefly, then fade. The stories of the night are over. Now come directions, warnings, and quick exchanges of information. A bridge ahead is damaged. A market opens late today. Rain is expected by afternoon. These details matter more than tales now. Someone mentions the weather with a sigh. Cold mornings like this sap energy quickly. Travelers adjusted their plans accordingly, sometimes leaving later to let frost lift, sometimes leaving earlier to beat it. You consider your own route instinctively, even if you have not named it yet. The innkeeper moves among the departing guests, watchful but calm. Their role now is to clear the space, prepare for the next cycle. Beds, or rather straw, must be refreshed, floors swept, fires rebuilt. The night leaves behind work. You stand fully now, feeling the pull of gravity return. Sleep has receded, leaving behind a dull ache and a sense of completion. You survived the night. That matters more than comfort. As you sling your pack over your shoulder, you catch a final glimpse of the room as it truly is. Not a refuge, not a danger, but a mechanism. It gathers people, warms them briefly, feeds them enough, then releases them back into motion. This is its purpose. A strange thought crosses your mind. For all its discomfort, the inn offered something rare. Witnesses. If something had gone wrong, someone would have seen. Someone would have remembered. That shared presence carried weight in a world where isolation was often deadly. You move toward the door with the others. Cold air leaks in as it opens, sharp and bracing. Outside, the road waits, pale and quiet. The sky has lightened enough to show its shape, though the sun remains hidden. You pause at the threshold for just a moment, breathing in the outside air. It smells cleaner, thinner. You feel taller here, more alert. The inn has done its work. Behind you, the door closes again, muffling the sounds inside. Another night finished. Another set of travelers dispersed. You step forward, boots meeting the road, body stiff but capable. The day stretches ahead, uncertain but open. And as you walk away, the warmth of the night fades fully, leaving only memory and momentum. The road greets you with a kind of honesty the inn never offered. Cold air clears the last traces of smoke from your lungs, and your breath feels sharper, cleaner. Your muscles protest as you settle into motion again. Rest was partial. It always is. Still, movement comes easier than you expected, as if the night, for all its discomfort, did its quiet work. You walk for a while before fully waking. The rhythm of your steps carries you forward, each footfall a reminder that you are alone again, or at least separate. The inn fades behind you quickly. Buildings like that recede from memory faster than the road itself. They are pauses, not destinations. As you move, your thoughts drift back to the night, not in a neat sequence, but in fragments. The warmth near the hearth, the weight of the blanket, voices overlapping and then dissolving into breath and sleep. These memories cling briefly, then loosen as the morning asserts itself. You adjust your pack strap, feeling where it rubbed your shoulder during the night. A faint soreness remains. It will fade soon, replaced by the familiar ache of travel. You accept this without complaint. Discomfort is expected. It proves you are still moving. In this time, travelers often measured nights not by quality of sleep, but by outcomes. Did you wake with your belongings intact? Did illness avoid you? Did the fire stay contained? By those measures, your night was a success. Comfort would have been a bonus, not a promise. As the inn disappears from sight, you notice something subtle. Your awareness feels sharper than it did yesterday evening. You listen more closely to the sounds around you. Birds testing the morning, wind moving through bare branches, distant water. The night has tuned you, not dulled you. There is a belief that medieval travel hardened people beyond feeling, that fatigue and cold numbed sensation. Walking now, you suspect the opposite. Nights like that trained sensitivity. You learn to read small changes because they mattered. Safety often depended on noticing before understanding. You pass another traveler heading in the opposite direction. There is no conversation, only a nod. That nod carries recognition. You both know what the other has endured recently. Shared experience needs few words. The road itself tells stories if you pay attention. Ruts deeper on one side suggest heavy carts, favoring a particular route. Scattered straw hints at livestock driven through earlier. Mud dried into uneven patterns reveals where water pooled overnight. These signs guide you as much as maps ever could. Some scholars argue that repeated nights in inns created a shared travel culture across regions. Gestures, expectations, habits spread along with goods. You feel part of that now, even if you cannot name it. The way you walk, the way you scan ahead, the way you ration attention, all reflect lessons learned indoors and out. Your stomach tightens slightly as the warmth of the stew fully fades. The bread sits heavy but insufficient. You know when you will need to eat again. You plan your steps accordingly, counting distance not in miles, but in hunger. A curious memory surfaces. The horseshoe above the hearth. You wonder briefly whether it brought luck or simply marked continuity. Objects like that outlast individuals. They gather meaning from repetition. Tonight, another traveler will notice it and wonder the same thing. The night also leaves traces in your body. Your shoulders hunch slightly against imagined cold. Your hands curl reflexively when a sound startles you. These habits will ease as daylight strengthens. By afternoon, you will feel like yourself again, or whatever version of yourself the road allows. You pause briefly at a bend where the road dips. From here, you can no longer see the inn. That feels significant, though you cannot say why. You take a breath. Then, continue. There is no reason to linger. As you walk, you consider how nights like that shaped expectations. You did not hope for silence. You did not expect privacy. You measured success by survival and continuity. Modern ideas of rest would have seemed strange here, even indulgent. Your thoughts wander to those who remained behind. The innkeeper resetting the room, the child carrying bowls, the dog curling back near the hearth. Their day is beginning as yours continues. Their movement is different, but no less necessary. There is disagreement among historians about whether people slept better at home than on the road. Some sources suggest familiarity eased rest. Others point out that households were often crowded and noisy too. Sleep everywhere was fragmented. What differed was familiarity, not conditions. Walking now, you feel the absence of the crowd more than its presence. The road is quieter than the inn ever was. That quiet feels wide and slightly exposed. You adjust your pace unconsciously, matching your breathing to your steps. A memory of laughter from the common room returns briefly. It feels distant now, like something overheard long ago. Nights compress emotion. Days stretch it thin. You reach a small rise and stop to look ahead. The landscape opens slightly. Fields, bare and waiting. A line of trees marking water. Smoke rising faintly from a distant settlement. You calculate without thinking. How far? How long? How hungry? How tired? The night has taught you efficiency. You waste fewer movements now. You tighten straps properly. You avoid uneven ground where possible. These adjustments accumulate. They make travel possible. You think again of the shared sleeping space, of bodies breathing together, of vigilance without fear. That environment demanded awareness without panic. It taught balance, too alert, and you never rest, too relaxed, and you risk loss. Walking now, you carry that balance with you. By mid-morning, the cold will ease. By afternoon, fatigue will return in a different form. Tonight, another inn or another shelter will present itself. The pattern continues. For now, you walk. The road accepts you again. Indifferent, but navigable. The memory of the inn recedes into something useful rather than vivid. You do not miss it, but you understand it now. By the time the sun climbs higher, the night at the inn feels both distant and strangely present. Like a weight you no longer carry but still remember lifting. Your body has settled into the rhythm of the road again. Each step lands with more confidence. Muscles warm, breath evens out. The stiffness from sleeping on straw loosens slowly, replaced by a dull familiarity you recognize as endurance. You become aware of how the night has sharpened your senses. Sounds seem clearer now. The creak of leather, the scrape of gravel, a bird calling from somewhere unseen. At the inn, noise surrounded you constantly. Here, each sound stands alone, easier to interpret. You find yourself listening not out of fear, but habit. Travelers of this time often spoke of the road as a teacher, not in words, but in repetition. Every night, spent in a shared space, taught lessons that daylight confirmed. You learn how much water you need, how far you can walk before hunger dulls judgment, how cold settles differently after exhaustion. None of this is written down. It settles into the body instead. The sun finally clears the low clouds, casting pale light across the path ahead. Frost glitters briefly on grass at the roadside, then disappears. You watch it vanish without thinking much about it. Cold is temporary, so is warmth. Both are expected. As you walk, you replay moments from the inn in fragments. The innkeeper's glance, the quiet negotiation of space, the way people slept lightly, ready to wake. You realize how much of that behavior carries forward into the day. You scan ahead often. You check your pack instinctively. You choose where to step with care. There is an assumption that medieval people were constantly anxious, living in fear of danger. Walking now, you feel something different. Awareness. Yes. Caution. Certainly. But not panic. Panic wastes energy. The night taught you that. When noise was constant and privacy absent, calm became a tool. You pass a small stream and stop briefly to drink. The water is cold and clear. You kneel carefully, mindful of your balance, and cup your hands. Drinking like this is risky, but thirst outweighs caution. Many travelers relied on streams and springs, judging safety by smell, clarity, and local knowledge. You trust your senses and move on. The road curves gently, revealing more of the landscape. Low hills, open fields, a distant line of trees marking a boundary you will reach later. You measure progress not by distance, but by effort. How long before you need to rest again? How the sun feels on your back? There is a quiet comfort in knowing that tonight you may seek another inn, or a barn, or a sheltered place beside the road. The specifics matter less than the pattern. Movement. Pause. Movement again. Life unfolds in these cycles. You think briefly about the people you shared the night with. Their faces blur together now, but their presence lingers. They shaped your rest, just as you shaped theirs, even without words. Bodies influence one another. Breathing synchronizes. Vigilance spreads. Comfort becomes communal. Some modern writers romanticize medieval inns as places of adventure and danger. Others paint them as miserable and grim. Walking now, you suspect the truth, sat quietly in between. They were functional, necessary, sometimes unpleasant, sometimes reassuring, like most things meant to keep people moving. Your stomach tightens again, reminding you that the stew was hours ago. You consider rationing your pace, slowing slightly to conserve energy. These calculations come easily now. You do not resent them. They give structure to the day. As the road stretches on, your thoughts grow simpler. Plans narrow to the next bend, the next drink of water, the next place to sit and rest. Complexity belongs to cities and courts. Out here, simplicity keeps you alive. You pause again, adjusting your pack. The leather strap is damp with sweat now. You loosen it slightly, then retighten it properly. Small discomforts accumulate quickly if ignored. The inn taught you that. Straw that seemed tolerable at first became unbearable by morning. Attention matters. The memory of shared sleep returns briefly. How strange it felt at first to lie down among strangers. How normal it became by the end. Humans adapt quickly when they must. Privacy is a habit, not a necessity. You wonder how many nights like that shaped the expectations of people who rarely slept alone. How dreams tangled together in shared air. How waking beside unfamiliar faces became routine rather than alarming. Sleep was a social act, not a private retreat. The sun climbs higher. Warmth spreads across your shoulders. You loosen your cloak, letting heat escape. The cold night feels like a different life now, though it was only hours ago. That contrast sharpens your appreciation of daylight. You reach a crossroads marked by a simple post. No sign, just a split in the path. You pause, considering which direction to take. Somewhere ahead lies another place of rest. Somewhere else lies longer stretches of solitude. Both have their costs. You choose. Step forward and continue. The night at the inn did not give you comfort, but it gave you continuity. It held you long enough to recover, just enough to move again. That is its purpose. As you walk on, you carry that lesson with you. Rest does not need to be perfect. It needs to be enough. And for now, it was. By midday, the road feels different beneath your feet. The chill of morning has lifted, replaced by a steady, workable warmth. Your body moves more freely now, joints loosening with each mile. The night at the inn has faded into something less immediate, yet its influence remains, woven quietly into how you walk, how you pause, how you watch the world around you. You stop beside the road where the ground rises slightly, offering a view across low fields and hedges. From here, you can see movement in the distance. Farmers working slowly, a cart inching along a parallel path. Life unfolding at a pace that feels almost gentle compared to the compression of the inn. You breathe deeply, savoring the open air. There is relief in space. After hours of shared breath and crowded warmth, the openness feels generous. You stretch your arms, shoulders rolling, and feel the last stiffness ease. The straw sore ache in your back dulls to a memory. This is the trade. A difficult night buys you a functional day. As you walk again, you think about how sleep shapes travel. Not just how long you rest, but how you rest. The night taught you patience. It reminded you that sleep can be partial and still useful. You did not sink into deep dreams. You floated, waking and drifting, alert and resting at once. That pattern follows you now. You notice details more quickly. You recover balance faster when the road dips unexpectedly. Some travelers preferred to avoid inns entirely, choosing barns, sheds, or the open ground instead. Accounts from the period describe both choices, sometimes from the same person on different nights. Decisions depended on weather, money, company, and instinct. There was no single correct answer, only trade-offs. Walking now, you assess the sky. Clouds move lazily, thin and scattered. No sign of rain yet. You calculate how far you might go before needing shelter again. The inn taught you not to assume availability. Shelter is something you seek early, not at the last moment. You pass another traveler resting by the roadside, sitting on a low stone, boots off, feet steaming faintly in the sun. They glance up as you approach, offering a tired smile. You return it. No words are exchanged. The smile says enough. You both understand the need to pause without explanation. Further along, you encounter a small group walking together. They speak quietly, their conversation punctuated by laughter. You note how close they stand to one another, how their steps fall into rhythm. Companionship changes travel. Shared nights in inns often led to temporary alliances on the road. Safety increased with numbers. So did noise. You consider whether to fall in with them for a while. The thought passes, then dissolves. Solitude suits you today. The night was crowded enough. As the sun reaches its highest point, hunger returns with insistence. The bread from morning is long gone. You slow your pace slightly, conserving energy. You know from experience that pushing through hunger leads to mistakes. A twisted ankle, a missed turn. The night taught you caution. The road reinforces it. You find a spot near a tree and sit, resting your back against its trunk. The bark is rough and cool. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the warmth seep in. This rest is different from the inn. Quiet, voluntary. You could sleep here if you wished, but you choose not to. Rest comes in many forms. While you sit, your mind drifts back to the shared sleeping space. The way bodies arrange themselves instinctively, the way sound became a blanket of its own. You realize how much trust that required, even if it was unspoken. Trust in the innkeeper, trust in the crowd, trust that vigilance would be enough. There are records of travelers complaining bitterly about nights spent in inns, of lice, of noise, of theft. There are also records of gratitude, of warmth offered during storms, of lives saved by shelter found just in time. The truth of inns lives in these contradictions. They were imperfect solutions to constant movement. You open your eyes and watch leaves stir above you. Sunlight filters through, shifting patterns on the ground. You think about how rarely medieval people experienced true silence. Even here, birds call, wind moves. In the inn, sound was human and constant. Out here, it is broader, less demanding. You rise and continue, feeling steadier for the pause. Your steps fall into rhythm again. Each mile brings subtle changes. The road surface shifts. The smell of the air changes slightly. You pass through invisible boundaries, shaped by land use and local habit. As afternoon deepens, fatigue creeps back in. Quieter this time. Not the sharp exhaustion of night, but a slow drain. You accept it. This is expected. The night was never meant to restore you fully. It was meant to reset you just enough. You begin to think ahead again. Where might you sleep tonight? Another inn, perhaps, or a farmhouse willing to offer space for a small coin, or a sheltered spot by the road. You weigh options without anxiety. Planning has become part of your walking. The memory of the innkeeper returns briefly. Their steady movements, their careful balance of warmth and restraint. You realize how much responsibility rested on that role. To host strangers without knowing their intentions. To manage fire, food, and conflict through long nights. Inns were not passive spaces. They required constant attention. You feel a flicker of appreciation for that labor, unexpected and brief. Without it, the road would be harsher, more dangerous. Even flawed shelter matters. The sun begins its slow descent. Though it still feels early, light changes, growing softer. Shadows lengthen. You adjust your pace again, aware that daylight is finite. The night ahead will demand its own preparation. You walk on, carrying the lessons of straw and smoke and shared breath. The inn has already receded into the past, but its imprint remains in your posture, your patience, your awareness. When evening comes, you will seek shelter again, and when you lie down, wherever that may be, you will remember how to rest without surrendering. By late afternoon, the world begins to tilt gently toward evening. The sun lowers just enough to soften the air, and shadows stretch across the road like long fingers pointing forward. You feel the shift before you see it. The day exhales, and with it, your energy thins into something more fragile. Your pace slows without conscious decision. Each step still lands true, but there is less urgency behind it. The night at the inn has already shaped this moment. You know better than to rush into darkness unprepared. Shelter is not something you look for when the light is gone. It is something you secure while you still can. You scan the landscape more deliberately now. A cluster of trees might block wind. A rise in the land could offer drainage if rain comes. Smoke in the distance suggests habitation. And where people gather, shelter often follows. You weigh these signs carefully, the way you learn to read the inn before entering it. Fatigue settles deeper into your legs. It is not painful, just persistent. The road asks more of you than it did this morning. Your shoulders feel heavier beneath your pack. You loosen the straps slightly, redistributing weight, and feel immediate relief. These small adjustments matter more as the day wanes. You pass a small stream again and pause to drink. This time you drink slowly, savoring the coolness. You rinse your hands and face, washing away sweat and dust. The water wakes you briefly, sharpening your focus. Cleanliness is fleeting on the road, but moments like this feel restorative. As you move on, you begin to hear distant sounds that signal evening. A dog barking far off, a hammer striking wood in measured rhythm. These are signs of people settling in for the night. You are not alone in preparing. The entire landscape shifts together. Your thoughts return, uninvited, to the shared sleeping space of the inn. How odd it felt to surrender personal boundaries so completely. How quickly it became normal. That experience has altered your expectations. You no longer imagine sleep as a private ritual. You imagine it as a negotiation with space, sound, and circumstance. You wonder how often medieval travelers slept alone at all. Households were crowded. Inns were communal. Even barns and sheds often held animals. Solitude was rare. Perhaps privacy was not missed because it was never promised. The light dims further, and the road ahead begins to lose detail. Colors flatten. Distance becomes harder to judge. You increase your attention, placing each foot with care. Fatigue invites mistakes, and mistakes near dusk can carry into the night. You crest a low hill and stop. Below, you see a small settlement, a handful of buildings clustered together. Smoke curls lazily upward. Relief spreads through you. Subtle but real. You have options now. As you descend, you think about what kind of rest you want tonight. Another inn would offer warmth and noise. A farmhouse might offer quieter space, but only if welcomed. There is also the possibility of sheltering on the edge of the settlement, finding cover without intrusion. Each choice carries its own risks and comforts. You remember how the innkeeper managed the night, balancing generosity with caution. That balance applies here too. Arriving too late invites suspicion. Arriving too early invites obligation. Timing matters. As you approach the outskirts, you slow further, adopting a posture that signals fatigue. but not desperation. Appear too strong, and you seem unnecessary. Appear too weak, and you seem like a burden. These judgments happen quickly, often unconsciously. You pass a field where animals are being gathered, guided by quiet voices and steady hands. Evening routines are underway. The smell of earth and hay fills the air. You breathe it in, grounding yourself. The memory of straw beneath your back returns, and with it, the knowledge that comfort is relative. A clean patch of ground with cover from wind might be enough. The inn taught you that rest does not require perfection. It requires acceptance. You reach the edge of the settlement and pause, observing. Light glows in a few windows. Others remain dark. You listen for sounds of activity, laughter, cooking, movement. These details guide your next step. As you stand there, you feel the day finally catch up with you. Not all at once, but in waves. Your feet ache. Your neck stiffens. You roll your shoulders gently, easing tension. The thought of lying down, anywhere, grows more appealing by the minute. You think again of the shared breathing in the inn, the way sleep came slowly but stayed. That memory steadies you. You know what to expect now. Noise will not surprise you. Cold will not shock you. You have learned how to rest lightly. There is a debate among historians about whether repeated exposure to such nights built resilience or simply wore people down faster. The answer likely varies. Some adapted, some broke. Walking now, you feel closer to adaptation, not because the night was kind, but because it was survivable. You choose a path toward a building that looks like it might offer shelter, perhaps an inn, perhaps a communal hall. You approach without haste, giving yourself time to read the situation, even if it does not work out. There will be other options. The sky deepens in color, shifting toward blue and gray. Birds settle. The air cools again. You pull your cloak tighter, grateful for its weight. Whatever happens next, you know this much. The night ahead will be shaped by the night before. You carry lessons forward, not as memories, but as habits. How to lie down without fear. How to wake without surprise. How to share space without resentment. You step forward, ready to negotiate rest once more. You reach the edge of the settlement, just as the last warmth of the day slips away. The air cools noticeably, pressing against your skin with renewed insistence. Evening does not fall suddenly here. It settles, layer by layer, and you feel each one. Your pace slows further, guided less by distance and more by instinct. You pause again, letting your eyes adjust. The buildings ahead are simple, low, practical, nothing ornate, nothing inviting in the way stories promise. But there is shelter here, and that matters. A faint smell of cooking drifts through the air, mixed with smoke and damp earth. Your stomach responds immediately, reminding you how thin the day's food has become. You take a few careful steps forward, boots sounding louder than you would like on packed ground. Sound travels differently at dusk. People notice it. You are aware of yourself now in a way you were not at midday. A moving shape against stillness. A presence that must be read and judged. A door opens somewhere to your left. Light spills out briefly. Warm and yellow, then narrows as someone steps into the threshold. They glance in your direction, not alarmed, just curious. You lower your gaze slightly, a gesture that signals fatigue rather than threat. These small cues matter more than words. You think again of the inn the night before, how entering was not simply physical, but social. The same rule applies here. You are asking, silently, to be allowed near rest. The answer depends on timing, demeanor, and luck. You move closer to the building that seems most likely to welcome travelers. Its door is sturdy. Its walls show signs of frequent use. There is a worn patch of ground nearby, where many feet have passed. This is not a private home. This is a place accustomed to strangers. Your body tightens slightly as you approach. Fatigue and caution coexist now. You remind yourself that even if this door remains closed, the night is manageable. You have learned that already. Before you can knock, the door opens wider. A face appears, lit from below by firelight. Not the innkeeper from last night, but someone similar in posture, watchful, appraising. They take in your pack, your stance, your expression. You greet them simply. No long explanation. No apology. Words are brief at this hour. You ask for a place to rest. The request is plain, stripped of expectation. There is a pause. Not long, but long enough for you to feel it. The person considers. You stand still. Hands relaxed. Eyes steady. Desperation would hurt your chances. Confidence would seem arrogant. You aim for balance. At last, they nod and step aside. The door opens fully. Warmth spills out, carrying with it familiar smells. Smoke, food, human presence. Relief moves through you. Quiet, but unmistakable. You step inside and feel the day finally begin to loosen its hold. This space is smaller than the inn you left behind, but the logic is the same. Shared warmth, shared air, shared expectation of endurance. The room holds only a few people. They look up briefly, then return to what they were doing. You are noticed, then absorbed. This is the rhythm of such places. New arrivals ripple through the space, then settle. You remove your pack carefully and place it where it will not block movement. You have learned that courtesy here is physical, not verbal. You take the space you are given and no more. The person who admitted you gestures toward a spot near the wall. Straw again. A blanket. If one is available. No promises. You nod in thanks. Gratitude is shown by compliance. As you lower yourself to the floor, the ache in your legs deepens briefly, then eases. Sitting still feels harder than walking now. Your body hums with the residue of motion. You let it fade gradually. The room is quieter than the inn, but not silent. A low conversation continues near the fire. Someone stirs a pot slowly. The sound is rhythmic and calming. You realize how much these noises signal safety. Silence would feel unnatural. You listen without intruding. The voices speak of ordinary things. A neighbor's illness. A repair that must be done tomorrow. News of a market farther down the road. These are not stories meant to impress. They are the fabric of daily survival. Food is offered again. Simpler even than last night. You accept it gratefully, aware that declining would raise questions. You eat slowly, savoring warmth more than flavor. The act of eating here is about alignment. You are now part of the evening. As you finish, tiredness floods in fully. This is different from the creeping fatigue of the inn. This is a deep, full-body heaviness. You feel it in your hands, your jaw, the space behind your eyes. You welcome it. You arrange your blanket and settle into the straw. The position feels familiar now. Your body remembers how to do this. Where to place your weight, how to angle your shoulders, how to keep warmth close. Around you, others prepare for sleep with minimal ceremony. Cloaks are adjusted, shoes set within reach. Small personal rituals play out quietly. A whispered prayer, a stretch, a sigh. You close your eyes earlier than you did the night before. There is less to watch here, less to learn. You trust the space more quickly, not because it is safer, but because you are more prepared. The sounds of the room blur into a steady background. Your breathing slows. The ground beneath you feels firm but supportive. The memory of the previous night returns briefly, then recedes. Each night stands on its own, shaped by the one before, but not defined by it. You realize something important as sleep approaches. The inn taught you how to share rest. This place teaches you how to accept it. Both lessons matter. Your thoughts thin out, no longer pulling at one another. The day releases you completely at last. The road waits for tomorrow. For now, there is nothing to decide. Sleep comes quietly, and you let it. Sleep arrives more fully this time, not because the place is better, but because you are ready for it. Your body has learned the pattern. The floor is firm. The straw shifts softly beneath you. The blanket holds what warmth it can. There is nothing to negotiate anymore. You sink. Your breathing slows until it finds a rhythm that feels natural again. Inhale. Exhale. The day loosens its grip. Not all at once, but in layers. Thoughts thin first, then images. Then the quiet awareness of your own weight fades. You drift into dreams that do not demand much of you. They are shallow and wandering, shaped by motion rather than story. You walk without destination. You sit by a fire that never needs tending. You hear voices but do not need to answer them. These dreams slip away easily when the room shifts around you. A sound pulls you closer to waking. Someone stirs near the fire. Wood is adjusted. A pot is moved slightly. The noise is gentle, almost apologetic. You do not open your eyes. You register it, then let it pass. This is the kind of interruption you have learned to accept. The air cools gradually as the fire settles. You feel it along your cheek, then your hands. You curl inward without thinking, drawing warmth closer. Your body remembers how. This movement no longer startles you awake. It belongs to sleep now. There is a sense of company here, quieter than the inn, but still present. You are not alone. The knowledge rests somewhere beneath consciousness, offering a steady calm. Shared spaces hold this quality, even in silence. Presence hums. At some point, a voice murmurs softly, perhaps a prayer, perhaps a wordless habit spoken into darkness. The sound is brief and unremarkable, yet it carries weight. It reminds you that sleep here is never entirely solitary. Lives overlap even at rest. You wake again briefly, unsure why. There is no sound, no movement that you can identify, just a subtle alertness. Like a ripple passing through water, you lie still, listening. The room breathes. The walls hold. Nothing demands action. This kind of waking is familiar now. It is not fear. It is awareness. People of this time expected it. Sleep came in pieces, stitched together by patience rather than force. You allow yourself to drift again, trusting that you will wake if needed. Your dreams shift. This time, they carry fragments of the road, dust, sunlight, the steady pull of forward motion. These images feel lighter than those of the inn, less crowded. You follow them without effort. A faint scent of smoke lingers, woven into everything. It reminds you of warmth without providing it. Your mind associates it with safety now. The association settles quietly, unexamined. You roll slightly, adjusting pressure along your shoulder. The straw sighs beneath you. Someone nearby shifts in response, then settles again. The movement is unconscious, a shared adjustment that keeps the space balanced. There is an old belief that sleeping near others keeps the worst dreams away. Whether that belief was widespread or simply comforting is unclear. Lying here, you understand the appeal. Fear thrives in isolation. In shared air, it loses shape. Time stretches in ways you no longer try to measure. You do not count hours. You do not anticipate dawn. You exist in the present moment, suspended between fatigue and rest. This is a different kind of peace, earned rather than chosen. Cold presses closer before dawn, as it always does. You wake enough to notice it, then pull the blanket higher. Your breath warms the air beneath the wool. You keep it there, slow and steady. This small pocket of warmth feels sufficient. Somewhere outside, wind moves through trees or across open ground. The sound filters in faintly, softened by walls. It does not feel threatening. It feels like context, a reminder that the world continues beyond this room. Your mind flickers briefly to the inn from the previous night. The noise, the crowd, the way sleep hovered rather than settled. You realize how much you learned from that discomfort. It prepared you for this quieter rest. It taught you how to let go without demanding perfection. You drift again, deeper this time. The line between dreaming and waking blurs completely. Thoughts dissolve before they form. Sensation narrows to warmth and weight. There is a brief moment of complete stillness, the kind that feels almost sacred. No movement, no sound. Even your breathing seems to pause, though it does not. This is the deepest rest you have felt in days. When you wake next, it is to light, not full morning, but the suggestion of it, a pale glow filtering through a gap in the wall or the edge of a shutter. Your eyes open slowly, unhurried. The room is quiet, but not empty. Others still sleep, their forms softened by half-light. You remain still, letting awareness return gently. Your body feels heavy, but not sore. That alone feels like a victory. The night has passed without disruption. You have rested enough. As you lie there, you consider how different this sleep felt from the inn. Fewer voices, less motion, a steadier quiet. Yet both served the same purpose. They carried you through the night and returned you to the day. You stretch one hand slightly, testing the stiffness in your fingers. It is mild, acceptable. You breathe deeply, filling your lungs with cool air that smells faintly of smoke and earth. Someone near the fire stirs, sitting up slowly. The movement is unremarkable, but it signals the beginning of morning. The pattern repeats. Wake, gather, move on. You do not rush to rise. There is no need. The road will wait. It always does. For a few more moments, you remain where you are, held by straw and shared space, suspended between rest and motion. Then, gently, you prepare to begin again. You rise more slowly this morning, not because your body refuses, but because there is no urgency pulling you upright. The light filtering into the room is soft and even, lacking the sharp contrast of dawn outside on the road. It gives everything a gentler shape. Faces look calmer, corners feel less severe. You take advantage of this pause, sitting up only after your breathing fully steadies. Your joints complain briefly, then fall quiet. The straw releases you with a faint rustle as you shift your weight forward. You roll your shoulders once, feeling warmth return where stiffness lingered. This is what a decent night does. Not perfect rest, but enough restoration to let the day begin without resentment. Around you, others wake in stages. Someone stretches with a low groan, unembarrassed. Another sits motionless for a long moment, eyes closed, gathering themselves before standing. No one speaks yet. Morning words come later, once bodies are aligned with intention. You notice how belongings are checked immediately. Pouches touched, knots tested, shoes located and pulled closer. This ritual is quiet and efficient. Everyone does it, even those who trust the space. Habit replaces anxiety. That habit was sharpened in places like the inn, where vigilance was shared but never abandoned. A pot near the fire is stirred gently. The sound draws your attention without demanding it. Whatever remains inside will be simple, perhaps leftovers thinned with water. It will be warm. That will be enough. You wait your turn, understanding now how mornings like this unfold. Light grows stronger, revealing dust motes drifting lazily through the air. You watch them for a moment, suspended and aimless. The sight calms you in a way you did not expect. Motion without urgency feels like a gift. When food is offered, you accept it gratefully. The bowl is warm against your palms. The contents taste faint and bland, but heat spreads through you with each swallow. You eat slowly, mindful not to rush what little comfort this provides. The road will ask much of you again soon. There is conversation now, but it is subdued. Short exchanges, quiet acknowledgements. People speak of where they are headed, not where they have been. The future matters more in daylight. Plans are formed and abandoned in the same breath. You listen without inserting yourself. There is no need. Your own direction is still forming. That feels acceptable. Nights like the one before teach flexibility. Certainty can wait. As you finish eating, you pack your things carefully. Each movement is deliberate. You have learned that haste invites mistakes. The inn taught you that lesson first, when fumbling in the dark risked attention or loss. Here, in calmer light, the lesson remains. You stand fully and test your balance. The floor feels solid. Your legs feel capable. There is a quiet satisfaction in this simple check. You are ready to move again. The person who welcomed you last night offers a nod as you pass. No words. No expectation of thanks. Shelter was given. Shelter was used. The exchange is complete. You return the nod, feeling the simplicity of it settle comfortably in your chest. Outside, the morning air greets you with cool clarity. It is colder than the room you leave behind, but fresher. You breathe deeply, filling your lungs until the last traces of smoke fall away. The sky above is pale and open. The day stretches forward. You pause just beyond the doorway, adjusting your pack, letting your eyes travel across the landscape. Roads split and rejoin here. Paths worn by countless feet extend in several directions. You choose one without ceremony. Choice feels lighter now. As you walk, you realize how the nights you have spent shape the way you move. Your steps are quieter, your awareness wider. You do not rush to fill silence with thought. You let it exist. There is a sense of continuity that follows you. The inn, the smaller shelter, different spaces, same purpose. They held you when movement was no longer possible. They returned you to yourself just enough to continue. This pattern repeats across lives and centuries. Rarely celebrated, always necessary. You pass a small cluster of trees and notice signs of previous travelers. Flattened grass, a ring of stones where a fire once burned. Someone slept here once, perhaps avoiding an inn, perhaps unable to find one. The road offers many kinds of rest, if you know how to accept them. Your pace settles naturally, not hurried, not sluggish. You move in rhythm with your breath. The road responds, offering firm ground and gentle curves. This mutual understanding feels earned. As the sun climbs, warmth returns gradually. You loosen your cloak again, letting heat escape. The cold of night fades into memory. Useful but no longer pressing. You carry its lessons forward without carrying its weight. You think briefly of the people still behind you, waking more slowly, preparing to tend fires or fields. Their days will be different from yours, but no less shaped by shared nights and practical rest. Movement and stillness balance one another across the landscape. There is an ease in you now that was not there before. Not comfort exactly, but confidence. You know what you can endure. You know what you need to keep going. That knowledge quiets unnecessary worry. The road opens wider ahead. Sunlight pooling in shallow dips. You step into it willingly, feeling strength return with each stride. Hunger will come again. Fatigue will follow. Another night will require negotiation. But you have learned how to meet those moments. For now, the morning belongs to you, and you walk on, steady and unburdened, carrying rest not as memory, but as momentum. As the day unfolds, you begin to notice how sleep, even fragmented and shared, reshapes your inner rhythm. Your thoughts feel steadier now, less pulled by urgency. The road no longer presses you forward with insistence. Instead, it invites you to move at a pace that feels sustainable, almost conversational. Your feet find their pattern again, a measured sequence that matches your breathing. Step, wait, shift. Each movement feels intentional without effort. The stiffness from the night has dissolved into a quiet awareness of your body. Present but not demanding. This awareness feels useful. It keeps you attentive without exhausting you. You pass through a patch of woodland where sunlight filters down in broken patterns. Leaves rustle overhead, stirred by a light breeze. The sound reminds you of the low murmurs in the shared sleeping space. Different in source, but similar in effect. A steady backdrop that reassures rather than distracts. As you walk, you consider how nights like those at the inn and the smaller shelter shape expectations. You no longer imagine sleep as escape. You understand it as preparation. A pause that equips you just enough to continue. That understanding alters how you approach the day. You take fewer risks. You listen more carefully. You trust gradual progress over bursts of effort. There is a stream ahead, wider than the one you crossed earlier. You slow and approach cautiously, testing the ground near its edge. Water moves steadily, clear but cold. You watch it for a moment, gauging depth and current. This habit, reading before acting, was sharpened by nights where awareness mattered more than comfort. You cross carefully, boots splashing lightly, cold seeps through the leather, biting at your toes. You wince, then laugh softly to yourself. Discomfort is brief and manageable. You step onto the far bank and pause, letting water drain and circulation return. The road teaches patience in small ways. Beyond the stream, the land opens again. Fields stretch outward, interrupted by hedges and occasional stone markers. You feel exposed here, more visible than in the trees. This awareness changes your posture slightly. Shoulders back, head up. You move with confidence, not to invite attention, but to discourage it. Travelers in this era learned quickly how to signal intent without words. Pace, posture, and gaze conveyed more than speech ever could. Nights spent in shared spaces taught restraint. You learned not to stare, not to flinch, not to claim more space than offered. Those lessons serve you now. Your thoughts drift to the people you slept beside at the inn. Their faces have blurred, but their presence remains as an impression. You shared vulnerability with them without knowing their names. That experience lingers, making solitude feel less stark. You carry a sense of connection forward, even when walking alone. As midday approaches again, hunger steers. You feel it as a hollow warmth rather than pain. You consider how much farther you can go before needing food. This calculation feels familiar now, almost comforting. It gives shape to the afternoon. You find a place to sit near a low stone wall and rest briefly. The stone is warm from the sun, radiating heat into your back. You close your eyes and let that warmth soak in. The pause feels earned. You do not rush it. While you rest, you think about how people spoke of sleep in this time, not as luxury, but as necessity, something to be managed rather than indulged. Nights were not expected to restore fully. They were expected to sustain. That expectation shaped everything from architecture to habit. The inn embodied that philosophy. It did not promise comfort. It offered survival with company. In doing so, it normalized endurance. You see that more clearly now, removed from its walls. The memory of straw and smoke feels less like hardship and more like instruction. You rise and continue, feeling the warmth linger even as the stone fades behind you. The road curves gently, revealing a new stretch ahead. You adjust your pack once more, ensuring nothing rubs or pulls. These checks have become second nature. As afternoon wears on, clouds gather slowly, thin at first, then thicker. The light softens again, mirroring the approach of another evening. You take note without concern. Clouds do not always mean rain. They simply mean change. You think ahead to where you might rest tonight. Perhaps another inn. Perhaps another small shelter. Perhaps something improvised. You do not decide yet. Experience has taught you to wait until you see what the land offers. There is a quiet confidence in that patience. You no longer feel anxious about nightfall. You know how to meet it. You know how to lie down without fear. You know how to wake without panic. These skills were earned in shared spaces where sleep came slowly and stayed lightly. A bird lifts suddenly from the grass ahead, startling you. Your heart jumps, then settles. You smile at yourself. Awareness remains, but it no longer controls you. Balance has been found. As the road continues, you reflect on how little of this experience would be written down. Nights in inns rarely made it into chronicles unless something went wrong. Yet they shaped countless journeys. They were the invisible framework that allowed movement across distances that would otherwise be impossible. You carry that understanding with you now. Each step is supported by unseen structures. Roads maintained by labor you do not witness. Shelters kept by people whose names you will never know. Shared nights that knit strangers into temporary communities. The sun dips slightly behind the clouds, cooling the air. You pull your cloak closer, feeling its familiar weight. Evening is approaching again. This time, you greet it with readiness rather than apprehension. You walk on, steady and observant, letting the lessons of rest guide your movement. Sleep no longer feels like something you chase. It feels like something that arrives when you prepare properly. And as the light shifts and the road stretches ahead, you know that when night comes, you will meet it calmly, informed by every shared breath and restless moment that came before. Evening approaches again with a familiarity that surprises you. The light thins, colors soften. The road ahead loses its sharp edges and becomes something more suggestive than certain. You recognize these signs now, without needing to think about them. Your body responds before your mind does, easing your pace and sharpening your attention at the same time. Fatigue returns in a quieter form than the day before. It settles into your calves and lower back, a gentle insistence rather than a demand. You accept it as part of the rhythm. The night will come whether you rush or not. Preparation matters more than speed. You scan the land carefully. A line of trees offers shelter from wind. A shallow dip in the ground suggests drainage if rain falls. Farther ahead, you notice a faint thread of smoke rising straight into the cooling air. That detail catches your attention. Smoke at this hour usually means people, and people often mean shelter. As you draw closer, the shape of a building resolves itself. Low, sturdy, familiar in its proportions. Another inn, perhaps smaller than the last. Or perhaps a roadside hall used by locals and travelers alike. You cannot tell yet. What matters is that it stands where the road narrows slightly, as if encouraging you to stop. Your shoulders relax a little. Not in relief, exactly, but in recognition. You know how this works now. Approach calmly. Observe before committing. Let the space reveal itself. You slow to a measured walk, giving yourself time to read details. The ground near the entrance is worn smooth by many feet. A hitching post stands nearby, scarred and splintered. Someone has been here recently. The door is closed, but light leaks from beneath it. Warmth waits on the other side. You pause a short distance away. Listening, voices drift out faintly. Not many. A low murmur. Laughter. Restrained. The sound of a cup being set down. This place is active, but not crowded. That knowledge settles your nerves. Approaching another shared sleeping space no longer fills you with uncertainty. You have learned the unspoken rules. How to stand. How to wait. How to enter without demanding. That knowledge feels like armor. Light, but effective. You step forward and knock once. Firm but not loud. The sound echoes briefly, then fades. A moment passes. Another. Then the door opens. The face that appears studies you quickly, not unkindly, just thoroughly. They take in your posture, your pack, your expression. You meet their gaze without challenge. Fatigue shows, but so does capability. That balance matters. You ask for rest, simply, No story, no explanation. The words are familiar now, practiced without feeling rehearsed. The person nods and steps aside, holding the door open. Warm air spills out, carrying scents of smoke and cooked grain. Your body responds immediately, leaning toward it before you consciously move. You step inside and feel the day loosen its grip once more. The room is modest, smaller than the inn you remember from earlier nights. A handful of people sit near the fire. Others are already settling along the walls. There is space here, but not abundance. You take in the layout quickly, choosing a place that does not draw attention. Payment is handled quietly. Coins change hands. A nod seals the agreement. You are assigned a place near the wall again. Straw spread thinly, a blanket folded nearby. The familiarity comforts you more than luxury ever could. As you settle, you notice how different your reaction is this time. There is no hesitation, no internal negotiation. You know what to expect. You know how to lie down, how to arrange your things, how to make yourself small without feeling diminished. Food is offered soon after. Simple, warm, shared. You accept it with the same quiet gratitude as before. Eating among strangers feels ordinary now. You listen to the room without searching it. Conversation flows around you in fragments. Someone speaks of weather coming in from the west. Another mentions a market day delayed. These are practical exchanges, designed to inform rather than entertain. You absorb them without effort. As the evening deepens, the fire becomes the focal point. People draw closer, arranging themselves for warmth. You feel the heat on your shins and welcome it. Your hands relax, fingers uncurling as circulation improves. The room grows quieter gradually, not all at once, but in steps, voices lower, movements slow. The day drains out of everyone at roughly the same pace. You sense this shared descent into rest, the way a group breathes together before sleep. You lie down when it feels right, not when others do. That sense of timing has grown sharper. You spread the blanket and settle into the straw, adjusting until pressure eases from your hips and shoulders. The position feels natural now. Around you, others do the same. Shoes are placed carefully within reach. Packs are tucked close. A few whispered words pass between companions. Then silence begins to form. Not complete, but sufficient. As you close your eyes, you reflect briefly on how the inn taught you to sleep among noise, and how smaller shelters teach you to sleep among quiet. Both require adaptation. Both offer lessons. Neither promises comfort. Both deliver continuity. Your breathing slows. The fire crackles softly. Someone shifts nearby, then settles again. The room holds steady. Sleep comes without resistance this time. Not deep, but reliable. You float into it easily, carried by the knowledge that you know how to wake, how to adjust, how to continue. The night stretches ahead, familiar and manageable. You do not fear it. You meet it with practiced calm. And as darkness settles fully outside these walls, you rest, knowing that this shared pause will carry you forward once again. The night settles into the room with a gentleness that surprises you. It does not crash down or demand attention. It arrives quietly, like a blanket drawn slowly upward. The fire dims to a steady glow, and shadows stretch along the walls, softening the edges of everything they touch. You feel the shift more than you see it. The space exhales. Your body responds almost immediately. Muscles release tension they've been holding since midday. Your breathing deepens without instruction. This is not the forced rest of exhaustion, but a practiced surrender. You know how to do this now. You have learned the rhythm of nights shaped by movement. Around you, others settle into sleep with minimal ceremony. A cloak is pulled higher. Someone clears their throat softly. A pair of boots is nudged closer to a wall to avoid being kicked in the dark. These small adjustments ripple through the room, then fade. Each person finds their place within the shared stillness. You lie on your side, knees drawn slightly inward, conserving warmth. The straw beneath you compresses and then holds, creating a shallow hollow that fits your shape. It is not soft, but it is predictable. Predictability feels like kindness after a long day. The air smells faintly of smoke and cooked grain, layered with the familiar scent of bodies at rest. It is not unpleasant. It signals continuity. This room has held many nights like this one, and it will hold many more. You are only passing through, but the pattern remains. A low sound escapes someone nearby, a half-formed word or sigh. It does not disturb you. It barely registers. Your senses have learned to filter without effort. What once felt intrusive now feels contextual, like wind or distant water. Sleep comes in shallow waves at first. You drift, surface, drift again. Images appear without structure. The road stretching forward, a fire that never fades, faces without names. None of it demands your attention. You let each image pass as it arrives. At some point, you wake slightly, aware of a change. The fire has shifted. Someone must have added a piece of wood. Warmth blooms briefly across your legs, then settles into a gentler heat. You do not open your eyes. You accept the gift and sink again. The building makes a faint sound as it adjusts to cooling air outside. Wood contracts. A beam settles. The noise is brief and unremarkable. It does not carry threat. It carries age. Structures like this move as naturally as bodies do. Your breathing slows further. Inhale. Exhale. Each cycle feels complete. You are not waiting for morning. You are not counting hours. Time has loosened its grip. There is a belief that sleeping lightly keeps a traveler safer. That full surrender invites danger. Lying here, you understand that the balance matters more than the rule. You rest deeply enough to recover, lightly enough to wake if needed. That balance is learned, not taught. A hand brushes your sleeve briefly as someone shifts in their sleep. The contact is accidental and fleeting. You do not tense. You adjust slightly, creating space without thought. Bodies negotiate even in rest. The room grows cooler as the night advances. You feel it first along your cheek, then your hands. You draw the blanket higher and breathe into the pocket of warmth it creates. Your breath becomes part of your shelter. This small skill feels surprisingly empowering. Outside, the world continues. You hear wind move through trees, distant and steady. Perhaps an animal passes nearby. The sound filters through walls and settles into the background. It reminds you that the shelter is not separate from the world, only a thin boundary within it. You wake again briefly, not from sound or cold, but from a sense of completion. Your body has reached a deeper rest than it did the night before. You recognize the feeling. It is subtle, but unmistakable. You are no longer catching sleep. You are holding it. Dreams shift again, becoming slower, less fragmented. You find yourself walking familiar roads without effort. You sit beside a fire and feel warmth without needing to move closer. These dreams do not tug you awake. They cradle you instead. At some point, a soft light begins to form at the edge of your awareness. Not dawn yet, but the idea of it. Your body notices before your eyes do. Hormones shift. Sleep thins slightly, preparing for release. You remain still, letting the process unfold naturally. There is no reason to hurry it. The road will wait. It always has. A quiet stir near the fire signals the first wakeful movement of the morning. Someone sits up slowly, careful not to disturb others. The courtesy feels instinctive, ingrained by countless shared nights. You open your eyes briefly, just enough to orient yourself. The room is washed in a pale grey light now. Shapes are gentle. Faces remain relaxed. You close your eyes again, savoring the last moments of rest. Your body feels different this morning, heavier in a good way, anchored. The aches of the previous night are absent or muted. That absence feels significant. It means the rest worked. Not perfectly, but sufficiently. You stretch one foot slightly, testing the space around you. No resistance, no sharp pain. You smile faintly, unseen. As the light grows stronger, more people begin to wake. Movements remain slow and deliberate. No one speaks loudly. Morning emerges as quietly as night arrived. You take a final deep breath, filling your lungs with cool air tinged with smoke and earth. You feel ready, not eager, not reluctant, simply prepared. When you sit up, it is without strain. Your joints respond smoothly. The straw releases you without protest. You gather your blanket and fold it neatly, returning it to its place. This small act feels like closure. The night has done its work. You are ready to move again. You rise into the morning with a steadiness that feels earned. Not rushed, not heavy, simply ready. Light fills the room now, thin but confident, revealing the quiet aftermath of sleep. Blankets folded, packs gathered, faces softer than they were last night. The night has passed cleanly, and that fact alone brings a quiet satisfaction. You take a moment before standing fully, letting your feet press into the floor. Balance comes easily. There is no sharp complaint from your back, no protest from your knees. That is not luck. It is the result of learning how to rest without demanding too much from the night. Around you, others move with the same deliberate calm. No one speaks above a murmur. Morning does not need volume. It needs coordination. People know where they are going and how long they have before the road calls again. You gather your things slowly, checking each item by feel. Pack strap, pouch, cloak, all present. This ritual feels grounding now, less about fear and more about order. You align yourself with the day through these small, familiar movements. Near the fire, someone stirs the embers and sets a small pot to warm. The scent that rises is faint but encouraging. Warm water, perhaps thickened with yesterday's grains. Morning food here is not meant to satisfy hunger fully. It is meant to awaken the body gently, without weighing it down. You accept a bowl when it is offered, wrapping your hands around it for warmth. The first sip spreads heat through your chest, easing the last stiffness from sleep. You drink slowly, aware that this quiet moment is part of preparation, not indulgence. There is conversation now, but it remains practical. Someone asks about the road ahead. Another mentions weather turning later in the day. These exchanges are brief, efficient, and useful. Information travels quickly in places like this, shaped by necessity rather than curiosity. You listen, absorbing what matters. A stretch of road becomes muddy after rain. A bridge farther on is under repair. These details adjust your mental map without requiring immediate action. You file them away for later. As you finish your bowl, you notice how naturally you move among others now. No hesitation, no awkwardness. Shared nights have taught you how to exist in communal spaces without friction. You step around someone stretching. You wait without impatience when space narrows. These habits make movement smoother for everyone. The person who kept watch over the room last night meets your eyes briefly and nods. It is not a farewell. It is acknowledgement. You shared a night under the same roof, and that is enough to mark the moment. You step outside into the morning air. Cool and clear. The sky has lifted into a pale blue, streaked with thin clouds. The light feels clean on your face. You inhale deeply, letting it clear the last traces of smoke from your lungs. Outside, the world is already in motion. A cart rattles past at a distance. Someone calls out to an animal. Doors open and close. The day does not wait for travelers to be ready. It unfolds regardless. You pause just long enough to adjust your pack and settle your cloak. The road ahead stretches forward, familiar and open. You feel no rush to fill the silence with thought. Walking will do that for you. As you begin moving again, You notice how the memory of the inn has changed. It no longer feels like a challenge endured. It feels like a reference point, a measure of what you can handle and how you respond when comfort is limited. You think about how many people in this time lived entire lives shaped by nights like that, not as exceptions, but as routine. Sleep was shared, privacy was rare, rest came in pieces, yet movement continued, trade flowed, pilgrimages happened, life advanced one night at a time. This perspective shifts something in you. You stop comparing your rest to an ideal. You measure it against function. Did you wake capable? Did you recover enough to move forward? That standard feels more honest. Your pace settles quickly. Each step feels aligned with the ground beneath it. You navigate small dips and ruts without conscious effort. Awareness remains wide, but not tense. This is the state the nights have been training you for. You pass a familiar bend in the road and recognize it from earlier journeys. That recognition brings comfort. Landmarks matter when everything else changes. They anchor memory and expectation. As the morning progresses, warmth returns gradually. You loosen your cloak and let sunlight touch your shoulders. The contrast between night and day feels less dramatic now. You know both. You have learned to move between them. Hunger will return later. Fatigue will follow. Another night will ask for negotiation. None of this feels threatening. It feels cyclical, predictable, manageable. You realize that the inn was not just a place to sleep. It was a classroom. It taught you how to listen without reacting, how to rest without surrendering, how to share space without resentment. Those lessons travel with you now. As you walk, your thoughts grow quieter, not empty, but focused. You think about distance in practical terms, about water sources, about shelter before dusk. The future narrows to what matters most. There is a quiet confidence in this narrowing. Complexity fades when survival is simple. Move, rest, eat, repeat. The road does not require more. You continue forward, steady and unburdened, carrying with you the memory of shared breath and firelight, not as nostalgia, but as knowledge, the kind that lives in posture and pace rather than words. The day opens fully now, and you step into it without hesitation. By the time the sun reaches its highest point, the morning feels complete. You have settled into the day the way you once settled into the shared sleeping space. Carefully, without haste. Your body moves with confidence now, guided by habit rather than effort. The road feels less like an obstacle and more like a partner, offering resistance only where attention is required. You pass through stretches of open land where the sky seems larger than it did earlier. Light pours down evenly, warming your shoulders and loosening the last tightness in your neck. You roll your head gently from side to side as you walk, easing stiffness before it has time to settle again. These small acts of care have become automatic. As the hours pass, you find yourself thinking less about the night and more about what lies ahead, not in grand plans, but in practical increments. The next place to drink, the next spot to rest your feet, the next shelter before darkness returns. This way of thinking feels efficient, even calming. It leaves little room for worry. You notice how often you glance at the ground now, scanning for changes in texture or color. Dry dirt gives way to packed gravel. A darker patch hints at moisture. These details matter. They inform how you place your weight and how quickly you move. Nights spent waking lightly have trained you to read without staring. There is a quiet satisfaction in recognizing how much you have learned in such a short time, not through instruction, but through repetition. The inn, with its crowded warmth and constant noise, forced awareness into you. The smaller shelter taught you trust and acceptance. Together, they shaped a way of moving through the world that feels grounded. You stop briefly near a roadside marker, little more than a worn stone half sunk into the earth. It marks a boundary of some kind, perhaps between fields or jurisdictions. You rest your hand on it for a moment, feeling its cool surface. Countless travelers have done the same. pausing here to gather themselves before continuing. As you move on, you encounter another traveler walking at your pace. For a while, you share the road in silence. The presence feels companionable without requiring engagement. After some time, they fall behind. Or perhaps you do. The separation happens naturally, without acknowledgement. You think about how shared nights create temporary bonds that do not demand continuation. You slept beside strangers, woke among them, and moved on without ceremony. Those connections mattered in the moment and then dissolved. There is something freeing in that, meaning without obligation. The sun shifts slightly, and you feel hunger stir again. Not urgent, but present. You take stock of what you have. A small piece of bread remains, saved without conscious decision. You eat it slowly as you walk, savoring each bite. It is dry and simple, but it steadies you. As the afternoon progresses, clouds gather again, thin and high. They filter the light, softening shadows and cooling the air. You welcome the change. Constant brightness can be as tiring as cold. Balance matters. You reflect on how nights in inns influenced daily rhythms for countless people. Sleep did not mark a clean break between days. It blended them together. Fatigue carried over. Rest accumulated gradually. Days were shaped by how nights went, not the other way around. This understanding shifts how you judge yourself. You do not expect endless energy. You accept fluctuations. Some hours feel lighter, others heavier. Neither defines you. They simply inform your pace. You come upon a small rise in the land and climb it steadily. At the top, you pause to look back. The road behind curves gently out of sight. Somewhere along it lies the inn, now far removed from your present moment. The distance feels symbolic as well as physical. Ahead, the road descends toward a patchwork of fields and trees. You scan for signs of habitation. Smoke, movement, fences. These markers guide your planning for the coming evening. You do not commit yet. You observe. Your body begins to signal the need for rest again. Not sleep, but pause. You find a spot beneath a tree and sit, letting your pack slide from your shoulders. The relief is immediate. You stretch your legs out in front of you and close your eyes for a moment. The ground beneath you is firm but forgiving. Grass cushions you lightly. This rest is different from night rest. It refreshes without fully disengaging. You remain alert to sounds around you. Birds, wind, distant movement, all familiar, all non-threatening. As you sit, you think again of the innkeeper and the way they watched the room, how they balanced warmth with caution. You realize that you have begun to do the same with yourself. You monitor your energy. You adjust before problems arise. This self-awareness feels new and valuable. You stand again when it feels right, not when impatience pushes you. The road accepts you back easily. Your stride returns without effort. As the afternoon wanes, light shifts toward gold. The air cools slightly. Shadows lengthen. Evening preparation begins quietly within you. You check your water supply. You scan for shelter more frequently. You slow just a little, conserving energy for the decisions ahead. You realize that the idea of sleeping in another inn no longer carries novelty. It carries familiarity. You know what awaits. Noise, shared air, limited comfort. You also know what it provides. Warmth, witness, continuity. That knowledge strips away uncertainty. There are debates among scholars about whether medieval inns fostered community or merely tolerated proximity. Walking now, you feel that the answer may depend on the traveler. For you, those nights created a sense of belonging that did not require permanence. That feels like community, even if it is fleeting. As the road bends again, you catch sight of another settlement in the distance. It is still far enough away that you have time to decide how to approach it. You slow, letting the moment stretch. There is no rush. The day has given you what it can. The night will ask for its own terms. You feel ready to negotiate again. With steady steps and a calm mind, you move forward, carrying with you the quiet confidence earned through shared rest and patient endurance. As the afternoon leans toward evening once more, you become aware of how instinctively you now prepare for the night ahead. There is no tension in it, no anxious scanning, just a steady narrowing of attention. The land tells you what it offers, and you listen. The settlement you noticed earlier grows clearer as you approach. It is modest, a cluster of buildings rather than a town. Roof lines sit low against the sky. Smoke rises in thin strands that drift sideways, suggesting a breeze. You note that detail without thinking much about it. Wind direction will matter later. Your steps slow slightly as the road curves inward. You do not rush entry. Arriving too quickly can feel abrupt. Arriving too late can feel desperate. Timing remains a quiet skill you continue to refine. You pass fields where the day's work is ending. Tools are gathered. Animals are guided back toward shelter. Voices carry softly across the open space. Relaxed but purposeful. Evening routines are underway. You feel less like an interruption and more like part of the expected flow. At the edge of the settlement, you stop briefly. Not from uncertainty, but from habit. You adjust your pack. You straighten your posture. These small gestures signal readiness rather than need. You have learned that how you arrive matters almost as much as where. You move toward a building that appears accustomed to receiving travelers. The ground near its entrance is worn. The walls show signs of repeated repair. Light glows steadily from within, not flickering, suggesting a controlled fire. These details reassure you. Before you reach the door, it opens. Someone steps out, pose, and looks in your direction. Their expression is neutral, assessing. You meet their gaze calmly. Neither of you speaks at first. This silence feels natural now, part of the negotiation. You ask for a place to rest. The words come easily, unburdened by expectation. You are prepared for yes or no. That preparedness shows. The response is a nod, a simple gesture. The door is held open. Warmth spills outward, carrying familiar scents. Smoke, food, people. Your shoulders ease slightly as you step inside. The interior is similar to places you have already known, but no two are ever identical. The fire sits slightly off-center. Benches line one wall. Straw is spread along another. A few travelers are already settling in. Others sit near the hearth, finishing their evening meal. You take in the space without staring. You have learned to read rooms quickly and quietly. Where to sit, where not to. How to place yourself without drawing attention. Payment is handled with minimal ceremony. Coins pass hands. A short exchange confirms what is offered. A place on the floor. A blanket, if available. Perhaps food, depending on timing. You accept what is given without negotiation. Experience has taught you that acceptance smooths everything that follows. As you move to your assigned spot, you notice how naturally your body lowers itself. There is no hesitation now. You spread the straw slightly, testing it with your hand. Dry enough. That will do. You place your pack against the wall within reach and sit down slowly. The day's fatigue settles into you more deeply than before, but it feels manageable. You are not drained. You are simply ready to stop moving. That distinction matters. Food arrives shortly after. A shared pot. Simple portions. You accept a bowl and a spoon. Warming your hands before you eat. The taste is familiar. Nourishing without being memorable. You eat steadily, letting the heat spread through you. Conversation around you remains low and practical. Someone speaks of weather turning cooler. Another mentions a delay on the road ahead. You listen without contributing. Listening has become one of your most reliable tools. As the evening deepens, the room grows quieter. People shift closer to the fire. Movement slow. The day recedes. You sense the familiar transition beginning again. the collective descent toward rest. You lie down when it feels right, not waiting for silence. Silence rarely comes in shared spaces. You arrange your blanket and settle into a position your body now recognizes as sleep-ready. Around you, others do the same. Shoes are set aside, packs pulled close. A few quiet words pass between companions, then the room holds still. You reflect briefly on how little anxiety this moment carries now. The first night in the inn demanded adaptation. This one feels routine, not dull, but understood. That understanding brings calm. Your breathing slows. The fire crackles softly. Someone coughs, then settles again. The sounds weave together into a steady background that supports rather than disrupts your rest. Sleep arrives gradually, folding over you rather than pulling you under. You drift easily, aware without concern. This balance feels familiar and reliable. In your half-dreams, you move along roads that feel endless but not tiring. You stop and start without effort. You rest without fear. These dreams reflect learning rather than longing. You wake briefly when the fire is tended. Warmth brushes your legs, then fades. You pull the blanket higher without opening your eyes. Your body handles the adjustment automatically. The night passes in pieces, stitched together by awareness and release. You wake and drift back without frustration. Each interruption feels smaller than the last. As the deepest part of the night arrives, the room cools. You draw inward, conserving warmth. Your breath creates a small pocket of heat beneath the blanket. You rest within it, steady and calm. You think briefly about how many nights like this shaped the lives of those who traveled these roads before you. How endurance became quiet skill. How rest became communal knowledge rather than private indulgence. The thought fades as sleep deepens again. Your body holds rest more confidently now. It has learned what to expect. When light begins to filter in, it feels gentle rather than intrusive. You remain still, savoring the last moments of night. The transition to morning feels seamless. You open your eyes slowly. The room is pale and quiet. Others still sleep. You take a breath and feel ready. Not eager, not reluctant. Simply prepared. The night has passed. You have rested enough. Morning arrives with a familiarity that feels almost comforting now. Light seeps into the room gradually, not as a command, but as an invitation. It brushes the walls, settles on faces, and lingers in corners where shadows held through the night. You wake without surprise, your body already aligned with the shift. You lie still for a moment, listening. Breathing surrounds you, quieter than it was in the inn, but just as steady. Someone shifts nearby, the straw sighing softly. Another person exhales deeply, the sound long and unguarded. These small noises confirm what you already know. The night has ended without incident. You sit up slowly, feeling how your body responds. There is stiffness. Yes, but it is mild, manageable. Your back stretches without sharp protest. Your legs feel solid beneath you. This tells you something important. The pattern works. Shared rest, even imperfect, sustains you. Around you, others wake in stages. No one rushes. Morning here unfolds with quiet agreement. Shoes are pulled closer. Packs are gathered and checked. Hands move automatically. Repeating rituals learned over years of travel. You follow suit, touching each item you carry, confirming its presence. The action feels grounding rather than anxious. Habit has replaced worry. The night taught you to trust preparation. A small pot warms near the fire. The flame is modest, controlled, just enough to bring life back into the room. The smell that rises is thin but reassuring. Warm water, perhaps with a trace of grain left from the evening before. It will wake your body gently, not weigh it down. You accept a bowl when it is offered, nodding in thanks. The heat seeps into your palms, easing the last chill from sleep. You sip slowly, letting the warmth spread inward. There is no conversation yet. Morning words come after the body agrees to be awake. As light strengthens, the room reveals itself more clearly. Marks on the walls, repairs layered over repairs. This place has been shaped by countless nights like the one you just passed through. Travelers arrived tired, left capable, and made room for the next. There is a quiet respect in how people move around one another. You wait without impatience when space narrows. You step aside instinctively when someone stretches. These behaviors feel natural now. Shared rest has taught you how to exist among others without friction. Someone near the door speaks softly about the road ahead. A section has grown muddy. A stream farther on runs higher than usual. The information is passed without drama. Practical knowledge matters more than story in the morning. You listen and adjust your expectations. Perhaps you will slow later. Perhaps you will seek higher ground. The night has trained you to remain flexible. Plans exist to be shaped by circumstance. When you finish your bowl, you rinse it with a small splash of water and set it aside. The gesture feels respectful, though no one demands it. Courtesy here is quiet and mutual. You stand fully and feel the room release you. The straw no longer pulls at your clothing. The floor feels solid beneath your feet. You roll your shoulders once more, then slip your pack into place. The weight settles comfortably, familiar rather than burdensome. As you move toward the door, the person who welcomed you the night before meets your eyes and nods. No words are exchanged. None are needed. Shelter was given. Shelter was used. The exchange is complete. Outside, the air greets you with cool clarity. The sky is pale, touched with early light. Clouds drift slowly, thin enough to promise brightness later. You inhale deeply, letting the air clear your lungs. You pause just beyond the threshold, taking a moment to orient yourself. The road lies ahead, quiet and open. You feel no urgency to fill the silence. The day will speak soon enough. As you begin walking, you notice how different this morning feels from the one after the inn. There is less noise echoing in your mind, less residue from the night. The smaller shelter offered a steadier rest, and your body reflects that. You think briefly about how nights in inns shaped medieval travel as a whole. Inns were not destinations. They were hinges. They allowed movement to continue. They made distance possible. Without them, roads would have been shorter, journeys rarer, connections thinner. This understanding gives you a broader sense of context as you walk. You are part of a long chain of movement, supported by structures designed not for comfort, but for continuity. That continuity carries quiet power. The road curves gently, leading you past fields and low hedges. Morning activity begins around you. Animals are guided out. Tools are lifted and set down. Life resumes its steady pace. You move among it without disruption. Your stride settles quickly. Breath and movement align. This alignment feels earned. It is the result of nights spent learning how to rest without retreating completely from awareness. You pass a familiar marker in the road and recognize it from an earlier journey. Recognition brings comfort. It anchors memory and confirms direction. You smile faintly, then continue. As the morning deepens, warmth returns gradually. You loosen your cloak and let sunlight touch your shoulders. The contrast between night and day no longer feels dramatic. It feels expected. You know both now. Hunger will come again later. Fatigue will follow. Another night will require negotiation. None of this feels daunting. You have learned how to move through these cycles without resisting them. You realize something quietly important as you walk. The inn taught you how to endure noise and proximity. The smaller shelter taught you how to accept quiet without guarding it. Together, they reshaped how you approach rest itself. Sleep no longer feels like something you pursue. It feels like something you prepare for and then allow. That shift changes everything. As the road opens ahead, you feel steady and capable, not invincible, just prepared. Prepared to walk, prepared to pause, prepared to share space when needed. The world stretches outward, full of roads and nights yet to come. You move into it with calm confidence, carrying lessons learned in firelight and straw, in shared breath and patient endurance. And as you walk, you understand now what medieval travelers knew without naming it. Rest is not about comfort. It is about continuation. The day carries you forward with a calm persistence that feels almost gentle. You walk without counting steps now, without measuring distance in any precise way. The road exists, and you move along it. That is enough. Your body understands what is required, and your mind no longer interferes. Light settles fully across the land, soft but confident. The air is cool and clean, carrying the faint scent of earth and leaves. You feel balanced in a way that has nothing to do with strength and everything to do with rhythm. Movement. Pause. Movement again. This pattern has become familiar, almost comforting. As you walk, you reflect on how much has changed since that first night at the inn. Not in the world around you, but in how you meet it. The noise that once demanded attention now fades into background texture. Shared spaces that once felt intrusive now feel functional. You have learned how to be present without being overwhelmed. You notice how easily your thoughts drift now, unburdened by constant calculation. When hunger comes, you acknowledge it. When fatigue stirs, you respond early. You no longer push until something breaks. You adjust. That adjustment is the quiet skill the nights have taught you. The memory of the inn returns one last time. Not sharply, but with a soft clarity. The crowded room, the uneven warmth, the sounds of breathing layered together in the dark. You realize that what once felt uncomfortable now feels instructive. It showed you how people endured not through isolation, but through proximity, not through perfect rest, but through shared endurance. You understand now that medieval inns were not meant to offer escape. They offered continuity, a pause that allowed life to keep moving. Roads connected because inns existed. Journeys succeeded because people accepted imperfect rest and learned how to live with it. This realization settles into you quietly as the road bends ahead. You feel a sense of closure, not because the journey ends here, but because the lesson has been learned. You know how to sleep on straw. You know how to wake among strangers. You know how to step back into the road without resentment. As the day stretches onward, you slow just slightly, not from fatigue, but from awareness. There is no need to rush. The rhythm you carry will sustain you. Another night will come when it comes. Another shelter will present itself when needed. For now, you walk. The world feels steady beneath your feet. The sky opens above you. Your breath moves easily in your chest. You are not chasing rest anymore. You are carrying it with you, built from experience rather than comfort. The road continues, patient and unchanged. You move forward with it, confident in your ability to meet whatever night arrives next. And gradually, without effort, your thoughts begin to soften. The road becomes less distinct. The air feels warmer. Your body remembers how to slow, how to release attention without losing awareness. The memory of firelight flickers gently, then fades. The sound of footsteps grows quieter. You are no longer walking now. You are resting. The images thin out. Sensation fades to warmth and weight. Breath becomes slow and even. The world feels safe, held at a comfortable distance. You imagine lying down once more. Not on straw this time, but on something softer, quieter. The lessons remain, but the effort dissolves. You do not need to watch anymore. You do not need to prepare. The night is kind here. Your shoulders relax fully. Your jaw loosens. Your breathing deepens. Each exhale carries away what little tension remains. You feel supported, unhurried, complete. There is nothing left to decide, nothing left to plan. Just rest. Let the road fade. Let the inns fade. Let the fire dim gently in your memory. You are safe. You are warm. You have walked far enough for today. Sleep comes easily now, not as something earned, but as something allowed. And as you drift into it, held by calm and quiet understanding, the world settles with you. Sweet dreams.